they're meant to fly. Planes, they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. Planes just be flying, I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. Planes, they're meant to fly. Planes, they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. They'll leave behind more than I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. Planes, they're meant to fly. Planes, they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. Planes just be flying, I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. They'll leave behind more than a piece or two. They'll leave behind more than a piece or two.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Boom! Welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes. Tonight it's Malaysian Airlines Monday. We got it going on. Thanks, everybody, for being in the chat early. Thank you all, MH370X, for hanging out. Thank you, 4 Orbs crew here, for being with us. Appreciate you guys. What do we got on deck here today? So today is Malaysian Airlines Monday. I decided it's been a little while since we had kind of a chill stream. So we're going to do a little bit of question and answer today. We're going to look at this debris analysis that some of the MH370X people found in the Discord. We're going to do some just answer some questions from the chat. If you guys have any thoughts about the case or whatever, we'll take a look at that. We will also take a look at we're going to look at a video about suppression related to this technology as well by Tom Bearden. We're going to play that. It's maybe 5 to 10 minutes long. And yeah, we'll see where it takes us from there, guys. Thanks for all the great messages in the chat. Appreciate it, guys. And I'm gonna do a quick statement in the beginning as well that we're gonna do related to bold predictions. We're gonna do bold predictions number 2 here. So we're gonna start with some of that. Now, before we get cracking, let me find. Oh, I think. Weirdly, I can't figure out where the evidence list is. Well, I'll pull that up here in a minute. Oh, there it is. Okay, I got it. Sweet. Okay, let's get this thing cooking. Also, cheers, guys. Cheers. I thought about quitting drinking on the stream to not influence children, but then I realized that my streams aren't children friendly anyway. So Screw it. Never got in trouble. Okay. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna find was the video that I wanted to play. Let me pull that up. Beard in, dipole, beard in. I've got some pretty cool stuff for you guys as well in terms of videos and things lined up. Weirdly, I don't know where the Bearden thing is. Is this one it? Sorry, I'm looking for the video. Okay. Well, we'll start with the first thing here then tonight, guys. Hey, Shai Keenan, I see you in the chat as well. Sweet. This is kind of timely because this feeds into my next thing. Is anybody from the upper echelon said anything about the videos yet? I've been in contact with people, guys. Not really like UFOologist people. I don't really respect those people. Also, just real quick, what I want to say is that I'm starting to realize how extremely difficult it is to get people to look at and review the science. So I have been in touch with a number of people who I respect or who would help move the situation forward. And I often get back similar responses. So I'm not going to out anybody that I'm talking to here, any of that. So don't look for that. But what I will say is that this will give you guys an insight to what we're dealing with respect to the science related to this case and the videos. So as you guys know, I'm on the record many times over saying we have gravity manipulation technology. It's to such an extent where we can literally produce a wormhole at this point, and free energy is also real. So I reached out to somebody who's somewhat prominent, and they reached out to an expert in quantum mechanics. And I'm going to read what the expert said related to wormholes. Wormholes are very speculative science. It's true that general relativity allows for them, but we don't understand them well enough to say that they are anything more than science fiction. That doesn't mean they're not real or the aliens couldn't have figured them out, but there's really no reason to believe that they are any more than teleportation warp drives or any other sci-fi technology. This is somebody who's probably a PhD related to physics, speaking about quantum mechanics, who thinks that warp drives and teleportation and wormholes are science fiction. Gravitational lensing from a wormhole. It's true that if a wormhole existed, light would bend near it. But seeing lensing is not a smoking gun of a wormhole. What else is it? Lensing is caused by many things, including lenses, air density waves, visual effects, generators, etc. Okay. But if we're looking at a literal negative energy type event or neg entropy event, and we've seen lensing around it where a plane literally disappears, feel like it's a pretty good indication that what we're looking at there is a wormhole. Dark energy and scalar potentials, scalar weapons. There's a lot of talk about scalar physics and the ability to manipulate space-time. It's true that there's a lot we don't understand about space, but this is not something to take seriously. I've read Beardley's, I think they meant Bearden's papers on the topic, and it's charitable to say that they are flawed. I even engaged with Ashton, asking friendly questions about claims that Beardley, I think Bearden, theory could explain dark matter, and received only deflection and gibberish. So basically, the person, whoever they reached out to here, supposedly they had some interaction with me. So if you guys want to be sleuths and go try to figure out who it is, obviously they're a moron, no offense, but if you think that what I've been pushing is gibberish, then clearly you don't understand the science well enough to even begin to have the debate. Suppression. This is just classic conspiracy theory stuff. The science is out there and available, but it's also suppressed. But it's also a secret government program. It's just incoherent. Now, this is where you can tell that whoever they were talking about is just a complete fucking idiot. There's no other simpler way to put it, right? They always do this reductio ad absurdum arguments, which is to take your arguments and then make them sound silly when they're not, because that's not what I'm claiming at all. The science is out there in the sense that there are people that have posted it, but the way that it gets suppressed is people don't pay any attention to it, just like Retardo here did with respect to Tom Bearden's science and technology. Tom Bearden, I don't know who this person is, to be honest with you, But I would guarantee you that if you stack up their qualifications next to Tom Bearden, it's no contest whatsoever. Only one of them's ever worked in actual black projects for the government in private labs. Extra dimensions. It's true that we don't know if there are additional dimensions of space, but you don't need extra dimensions to have wormholes. So this is just sprinkling more physics phrases to sound impressive. Obviously, that's not the case. Kaluza-Klein, 1926, literally used extra dimension to unify gravity and electromagnetism. This brings up the concept of the ether and the energy that's all around us as well. This is our explanation for it. And then lastly, time dilation. And this is kind of the weirdest part. I've spoken about time dilation a lot. These guys do not understand time dilation. They talk about superluminal speeds causing time dilation, but superluminal speeds are not possible. And if they were, they would not cause time dilation, but time travel. I don't think that if this person's a professor in quantum mechanics or a professor anywhere related to physics, wherever they are, everybody should drop out from their classes. Because obviously they're just a fucking idiot. Like, I could actually teach physics better than this person can teach it. First of all, time dilation is 100% proven to be real. Superluminal speeds are a matter of relativity. If you don't understand relativity, then you definitely shouldn't be teaching physics to anybody. Because it's about me observing something that appears to be traveling faster than the speed of light. It's not a matter of the person going through the wormhole literally achieving superluminal speeds. It's the fact that you can manipulate and engineer the medium so that one instant you're here, next instant you're here, from the outside observer's perspective, to achieve relativistic superluminal speeds. Extremely important. And yes, when you do speed up towards the speed of light, if you were able to do that, you would experience time dilation by literal definition. It's absolutely proven. It's the twin paradox as well. Technically, I guess you could say it's time travel, but you would be traveling forward to the future, not to the past. So, and technically, if you can achieve superluminal speeds in the way that they think about it, which is the wrong way to think about it, then I guess technically you could say that you're traveling to the past. With that being said, I want to make bold predictions number 2. I just want to make sure absolutely that when these predictions come true, nobody can take this away from me. That I have been telling you for months, years potentially, that all of this stuff has already been figured out. It's already in the private labs, and that nobody can say that, oh, he was just guessing wherever. No, I know for a fact that it's real. Free energy, 100% is real, because there's a sea of energy all around us all the time. Casimir effect proves that we can extract energy. It's a matter of engineering it to have an infinite renewable way to extract that energy that is the challenge. Charles Bueller, who was on Glenn Beck recently, got a lot of attention. He's been talking about this EM drive variant. You can call it quantum drive. There's a bunch of different variants of it that are out there. These are all real as well. There's even a NASA paper talking about anomalous thrust from an EM drive. These things have been suppressed. So EM drive is out there and it's real as well. Bending or making a warp drive, which is the ability to just bend space around you and have basically no inertia. This is also real. Wormholes are also real. All of this science is based on the exact same fundamental principles of physics, which is that space is not empty and we need to consider it as a medium itself, which can be manipulated. If any of these things get proven true, all of them are true. Free energy, EM drive, warp drives, and wormholes. They're not science fiction. It's science fact. That's what I wanted to say to you guys. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some other stuff real quick. When does Keating's video drop? I don't know. And just real quick, I want to chat on that. That's a really good thing to bring up next to segue into, which I almost forgot about. I messaged Brian Keating, posted that he was going to talk to, and he's Professor Brian Keating. I'm going to give him those credentials because I do respect him. He apparently spoke to Sean Kirkpatrick. Sean Kirkpatrick was the former head of the AARO. I think he stepped down end of last year, earlier this year, somewhere like that. I submitted the case for MH370 back in November of last year. Just to be honest, he knows about it. Like this is the biggest case in UFO history by far. It's the strongest evidence that there's ever been for anti-gravitational type technology and technology that can bend space-time. So he absolutely knows about it. So when I saw that he was interviewing him, he was asking for questions, I said, give me an update on the case. What does he think about the case? Because I posted the link to the last email that says AARO found something related to the plane disappearing after it went off, was lost from radar. And then after that, they've ghosted me. 4 months it's been. They've ghosted me. We've heard nothing. So I asked him to say something, and I specifically asked after that if, ask about Ning Li's research or Eugene Potklanov's research. They were researching gravity shielding and gravity manipulation using superconductors. I happen to think that superconductors are, if there's a hierarchy, I would say superconductors are like the number one way to produce gravitational type effects. And he said he asked him a question related to it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and speculate right here in terms of what I think Sean Kirkpatrick's going to say. I think Sean Kirkpatrick's going to play dumb. A lot of these guys are pretty good liars. I think that Sean Kirkpatrick's probably a pretty shitty liar, and we're going to be able to see right through him. I think he'll play dumb. I think he'll pretend like he doesn't know anything about the case, so he's never heard of it. And he'll say, well, that plane disappeared. That was interesting. I remember following that. The other thing he may say, which would really discredit him, is if he references any of the debunks that are out there, then we know he's a liar at that point. If AARO is actually just like following whatever Mick West says or the Corridor Crew or any of these other idiots, then we know he's absolutely a liar. And it actually questions whether or not Mick West is literally on the payroll of some of these guys. So that'll be very interesting to see if they do that. Alternatively, maybe he just comes out and say, I can't say anything about that. I don't think he's going to say that. Or maybe he says, yeah, it's all real. We've been hiding it forever, whatever. Also, just a last comment on Sean Kirkpatrick. I think people should check out his LLC. I also think they should probably check out his scientific papers that are out there. I have it on pretty good authority that Sean Kirkpatrick knows all about the technology in general. I don't know that he knows about wormholes, but he works on private contractors and defense contractors. I think that he will lie to anyone's face. I think he'll die before he tells the truth, frankly. But that's just my opinion on Sean Kirkpatrick. I'm happy to be proven wrong. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, if you go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, I don't really do that whole thing, but subscribe and hit the thumbs up, guys, if you're enjoying the discussion so far. Okay, let's get to the next thing, guys. We got a lot of stuff to get through tonight. And sorry that okay. One sec. Oh, here it is. I found it. Just when I said that I wasn't gonna be able to find it, I found it. Wait, can I do this the right way? Let me see. No, I don't think I can. Shit. Oh, guys, I can do this the right way. Tom Bearden was some kind of folk singer or something in the 50s, in the late 50s, early 60s. Tom Bearden we're talking about. Yeah, okay, I have to do it the other way. Okay, sorry guys, hold on. Over unity and the suppression. Why can't I make this go away? Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is
are taught to throw away.
This Tom Bearden video is the one that I think I posted some clips from this. We may have even looked at this regarding the dipole. This is where I pulled the clip from the dipole, guys. Yeah, so Ryan's dropped some truth bombs. It feels like Ryan understands the real complexity of the situation related to some of this disclosure of this stuff. I've seen a lot of his comments on Twitter and in our streams as well. It's a lot more complex than what normies think, and that's the big issue. Honestly, it's more complex than the UFO people think as well. And what happens is the moment that you get brought in, and in some cases, the people have no idea that this stuff is real. They come in and they go, oh, yeah, I'll sign some NDAs. And then they get brought in, and then now they're realizing they're like, oh, shit, we have gravity manipulation. And you start breaking people's minds because, it's just that huge. And then you have other situations where, people may suspect it's real. They're very talented. They get brought in. But once you sign those NDAs, nothing else you're going to be able to say. Now it's just zip. These people understand the dangers associated with it, and they're well compensated. So hopefully you guys appreciate the fact that me not having NDAs related to any of that. I've only ever signed one NDA my whole life, as far as I know. and it's related to the EtherTech stuff, which is still going on, by the way. But this means that I can pretty much speak as freely as I want to, and the only reason why I hold back at all is twofold. One is that I think the technology is dangerous, so I want people to understand how science works, but I don't want to teach people how to make a doomsday weapon. And then on the other hand, I'm got to be a little bit careful. Like, I know I've always said, hey, I don't really care what happens to me, but like, yeah, shit. Once you start to really, really get it, like, you like can figure out kind of how some of this stuff works, then it's like, yeah, okay, now I'm just a little bit worried, not just for my own intelligence, country, but like foreign intelligence as well. It's just smart. So I do want to be around long enough to see Star Trek and help push us to Star Trek. Okay. Now, what we're going to look at right here is going to help explain it too. So if people out there don't understand the suppression, then Tom Bearden's going to explain it to you. And the reason why I'm playing this now and not on the science stream is he actually talks about something related to the letter to Ashton Forbes does about the videos. Real quick, Ashton, do you think one day China or Russia will have this technology? I think that they've already got it. This is the part that's scary as well. So, and this will feed into what we're talking about here and kind of segue perfectly. I think that Russia and China also know the technology exists and the science exists, whether it comes from UFOs or however we figured it out. I don't know, but I think they understand that it's real as well. And now it's like when the Manhattan Project was going on, you had all these different countries that were racing to make the bomb first, but only one country gets there first. They all know it's real. None of them are talking about it in the public eye, right? They're all like just working secretly, because any information you give away gives information away to your adversaries. This is what I think is going on right now. So it's not a matter of like a light switch where you turn it on or off. With respect to knowing the technology is real, yes. With respect to engineering it, no. That's a matter of like who's engineered it the furthest. Right now, the way I see it, and I don't have any inside information about this, this is just from learning about the science, reading the papers, getting a landscape of things, the geopolitics aspects. United States is way up here. We're ahead of everybody. China, I think, is catching up rapidly because they know it's legit, and they know they need to invest in semiconductors and other stuff like that to try to catch up. And then I think that China maybe even has surpassed Russia at this point, but that Russia's a little bit further behind. The reason for that is really simple. Why did the United States win World War II? Because we had the best production capabilities. Our production capabilities outpaced everybody by a mile. We just have more people. We have more capability to produce stuff. With respect to this type of technology, when the Soviet Union fell, they lost a huge amount of power, economic power, military power, you name it. So this is why Russia, otherwise, if the Soviet Union was still up, I would say they would be ahead of us probably. I think they actually figured it out first. That's the funny part. I think they figured it out before everybody else, and then we leapfrogged them. And then I think China was in third, and now I think China is like in second. And I think the United States is scared that China or Russia will surpass them because whoever's at the top has complete military supremacy of the planet. It's fundamentally equivalent or analogous to having air superiority. If you have air superiority, you can just rain hell on people and there's nothing they can do about it. This is what we did to Iraq. This is what we did to Syria. There was nothing they could do. We just dropped drones, strike them, whatever. This technology is like that. It's that paradigm shifting. So there you go. Hey, Tupa. Also, I want to do a quick shout out to Tupacabra. Sorry, then we're going to get into this. Tupacabra actually showed me a really awesome project that he's working on where he's cataloging a bunch of UFO sightings. And it's really, really impressive. He's built a database around it. The website looks awesome. I can't wait to share it when it's ready to go. And then maybe people can help contribute to it. I'm also going to be looking for volunteers to help take some of the MH370 evidence and stuff that we've collected and help him insert it into the website. I don't know, it'll be a huge project, but for people that want to help contribute, that'll be awesome. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, sorry, I was missing out on some of these messages, guys. Okay, sorry. If I missed your message, I apologize. Let's get to this video. Okay, I think it's somewhere around here.
He got the entire Earth itself in resonance. The question behind this, we have a few people who are quite wealthy and who own most things.
Okay, here we go.
Now, the normal nature of the beast for very powerful empires, let's call that an empire. It's a corporate empire, a set of corporations empire. It's basically a cartel.
Also, I was talking to somebody else. So I've all of a sudden became friends with Andrew Cotte or whatever. I misjudged this guy big time. So I've been messing with him. He's a smart dude. I like him a lot. One of the retweets that I made on one of his posts where he talks about the big issue with some of the suppressed science is the incentive structures that exist. Now, why am I saying that? Because it links into what Bearden's saying here. Bearden's basically saying there's corporations, or if you want to think of them as the elites or what have you, that are kind of controlling everything. They're so big and so powerful that they rival some smaller governments that are out there. And when you look at these incentive structures, these are the reasons why the suppression is so easy, is that their incentive is to not give this information away. Their incentive is to protect themselves, etc. And so let's listen to Tom Bearden talk about it.
Historically, as far back as you want to go, we have had cartels. Any time.
Yeah, and just this is also super important. You become rich, you sign an NDA, and then you retire. This is what happened. Who would turn that down? Just think about that. Who of you is going to turn that down? I actually thought about making a post, and I might make it later tonight, actually, which would say, and I want to know in the chats, guys. Okay, so I'm going to give it to you guys first. Okay, you have two options. Okay, you can have $50 million, or you can have disclosure of advanced technology that the public thinks is fake. Which of those options are you going to choose? If you would take the $50 million and live the rest of your life in luxury, put one in the chat for me. If you would give up $50 million to have the public know that, say, free energy were real or that gravity manipulation was real, put two in the chat for me right now, guys. I want to know what you guys think. One, if you would take the $50 million and go silent, can't say anything ever about it. Two, if you would let the public know that the free energy or what have you is real and live your life penniless or whatever it is. So I want to know what you guys think. Okay. We got a lot of liars in the chat. A lot of liars in the chat. Let's be real. You guys are going to take the money. You guys are going to take the money. It's easy to say that you wouldn't do it, but at the end of the day, if you had the $50 million in front of you, most of you guys are going to take that money, yo. Most of you guys are going to take that money. Anyway, so one if you're going to take the 50 million, two if you are looking for disclosure out there. Yeah. I like it. I just like that you guys are 1776 says my dad says 50 million. 50 million is a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money. And it seems like a lot, it seems like a ton, but at the end of the day, $50 million to these corporations is nothing. It's nothing. Especially if it's some really powerful technology that they can utilize and monetize. Scary, right? Okay, let's listen to the rest of this.
We have a very powerful cartel or set of people that control a lot of things that resist any means of changing its inflow of control and its inflow of funds and money and its power. You know, everybody's trying to be the big monkey. It's really as simple as that. And so the more powerful the agency, the more powerful the group, the more powerful the cartel, the more they will resort not only to legal means, but to extra legal means to suppress their competition. You know, this is openly known today. For example, the greatest espionage in the world is industrial espionage between one corporation and another right here in America.
Industrial espionage. Remember, what is MH370 about? So if you guys haven't been watching, MH370, the motive is the 20 Freescale semiconductor engineers. They were very important people, according to the company's press release themselves. 8 of them were Chinese nationals. The number one target for intellectual property theft is foreign nationals working for American companies, and we got 20 of them on board this plane. I don't think that's a coincidence, friends.
They're the ones that hire all the spies and the spooky equipment and everything like that, by far more than the intel agents do. So that's one thing we have. We have the giant industrial, or really cartel, economic cartels in energy. And it's not one cartel. There are many, many groups in energy, and each of those has become very powerful in its own area, and each one does not wish to see simple little electrical taps pulling out enormous energy from the vacuum. They would much rather see you burning a lot more oil and so forth.
And he's already talking about like the energy companies. So this is what a lot of people say, right? Is that energy companies are hiding this because it goes back to JP Morgan, couldn't put a tap on it, couldn't measure it or whatever and dole it out. So because we couldn't do that, then we couldn't put a meter on it. Therefore, you're going to cover it up. I think that's certainly a reason. I think the situation is more complex. It's not just one reason or another reason. There's absolutely a national security element to this, for sure. And I think that's related to the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951 as well. So there's more than one issue going on here. And this is where those different incentives, when you combine all this stuff together, the greed aspect, the kind of mafia aspect to it that they're talking about, and then the national security aspect, when you combine all of these, this is where it becomes impossible to get it out. This is why you have these competing priorities within the government. Certain people want it out. Other people don't want it out. Some people have seen that it's been suppressed for 50 years, and they're like, well, this is never going to get out. Oh, Where the Change. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you for the donation, 2222. This is a good Mitch Hedberg joke. He's like, I want my phone number to be 222-2222. Why? So that way when somebody says, hey, what's your phone number? I can just say, just press 2 for a while. When I pick up, you'll know you've pressed 2 long enough. Love it, guys. Mitch Hedberg, rest in peace, brother. My favorite comedian of all time.
So, yes, in my view, there is a very active suppression effort by those kinds of folks. Part of that goes into very unique areas. They don't do it so much. It's not totally mafia type stuff. It's not like, you just flat get shot. There's some of that. But one of the main ways of suppressing it is they take a deep psychological profile.
Okay, so it's about to get fucking twisted, chat. The reason why I'm playing this is because of where it's about to go right now. So he says there's some of, you just go out, you get shot, whatever, they take you out. There is some of that. But it's really not that simple. And one of the things I remember General Flynn saying, who, shout out General Flynn, follows me on Twitter, former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency from 2012 to 2014, by the way, follows me on Twitter. He was saying that there's too much forensic investigative capabilities today so that they don't generally just kill you. So what's the other way to do it? Well, he just said they take a psychological profile of you. What he's about to say here is they get a psychological profile of you. They figure out who you are better than you know yourself. And they look and exploit your weaknesses. This is like fucking dark ass shit that we're about to get into right here. And this is what they do. And what I want you to think about is the letter to Ashton Forbes. When they talked about it being like a movie script, the letter said, we had it play out like a movie. And what do you do when the villain thinks that like everything's over is you go ahead and you make it worse. Listen to this.
Of an individual that they wish to suppress. What it means is they really wish to get him entangled in all kinds of difficulties he can't get out of. Now, a good trait from a human being standpoint may be a very valuable trait to somebody who wishes to manipulate you. For example, suppose you're easy to approach. That's a vulnerability. That's a serious vulnerability.
Okay, right there. I'm sorry to keep pausing it, but if you want to understand why early in this investigation, I refuse to let people DM me and tell me what to think, you just heard it right there. I already knew about this bullshit. I already knew what bullshit the intelligence agencies do. If you're easy to approach, that's a vulnerability. If you're easy to approach and truthfully, I am someone who's generally easy to approach. This is why I got scammed back in December, is that I'm somebody that likes to trust people. But you have to be very careful because people want to sell you a narrative. And so how do you get past that? You look at what are the facts. I don't care what you know. I don't care what you think something is or isn't. I want to know what are the facts so that I can judge for myself. You just tell me the facts. Anybody who comes to me and tries to sell me a story, I get skeptical on. I just want to know, what does your science say? What do the facts say? What's the evidence? Let me come to my own conclusion. And if you do this, you can find out very quickly who are the people who are credible and trustworthy versus who are the ones who are trying to influence you, trying to shape your perception of events. Unfortunately, a lot of human beings on this planet do not possess the ability to distinguish between the two. And truthfully, one of the things that you learn, especially if you're a poker player as well, is that most people think they can tell when somebody's lying or not. And in general, people cannot. Is that when they do tests on people on average, it's 50-50, which is the same as flipping a coin. And it's either a lie or it's not a lie. So on average, people cannot tell when people are lying or not. And just having even a small edge is very important. If you can even just get to like 55%, 60% being able to tell if somebody's lying or not, that's huge.
So one's deep psychological profile is examined in great depth by real experts. And any way that you can be gotten to where you're naive, you don't have who knows international finance? You can be had on a money laundering scheme easily and not even recognize that's what you're in. So any way that you do not have good knowledge, or you do not have ability, or you have a vulnerability, they call them vulnerabilities, then they arrange scenarios just like you would write a movie. In fact, they do it with computers, it's all computerized. And in this scenario, we write a play where this particular vulnerability is going to be exploited in the target. Now, they keep deep psychological profiles on lots of useful.
This is where it's getting dark. We write a play where this vulnerability is going to be targeted and exposed. Guys, if I wasn't paranoid enough before this, now I'm super paranoid. Like, these people are evil, man. They're making scripts. They're making like freaking Shakespeare plays to take people down. This is where, like, guys, if they want to take me out, they're going to be able to take me out. They're going to be able to just give me like, some type of slow disease that will take me out over a slow period of time where no one would ever know. They would never even, public would never know. There's probably a million different ways that they could pull it off, where even if I say that I would never harm myself, which, by the way, I would never harm myself, they don't even care. They've got so many different ways to pull it off that they're going to just draw up a script that will make it look natural no matter what, right? And you'll either get discredited, or if they can't discredit you and they have no other options, then they'll just make sure you don't last that long on this earth.
Fellows. These are people who basically have knee-jerk reactions or something, or they're radical, or they have some kind of way they interact.
Yeah, this is the other part. So remember the beginning of this stream tonight, guys, where I said this person looked at Tom Bearden's stuff and thought it was mumbo jumbo? I'm like, you have to be a fucking idiot to not listen to this guy and realize that this guy is speaking off the cuff. He's not inventing any of this stuff. This is coming from personal experience. If you can't tell, like, this dude's done, how many hours of interviews have we listened to with Tom Bearden? You can't do this if you're a liar. Like, compare this to when we listen to the Sean Kirkpatrick interview with Professor Brian Keating. It's going to be uncomfortable and awkward. With Tom Bearden, he's just telling you exactly what he knows. You can tell, right? And the only thing that discredited Tom Bearden was that since he knew about this kind of stuff, he started thinking, well, all of these events that are happening, those are, some of these scripts that are being written, some of these plays that are being written. And that's where you get discredited. So just because something can be a conspiracy and they are capable of basically anything doesn't mean that everything is a conspiracy. And this is where it gets very difficult, because I think that the people who follow me in general, I'm going to switch to full screen for a second. There's two sides of this spectrum, and unfortunately, both of them are equally lacking credibility. You have the debunker side over here. The debunker sides think that nothing is a conspiracy. Anything that's a conspiracy is fake. The government always tells the truth. Government never lies. They're batting 1,000, etc. And then you have the people on the other side who think everything is a conspiracy. And even if something is like going their way, they think that there must be a second layer to the conspiracy to it. And that the government always lies about literally everything, and everything that comes out is a lie. Both of these sides have the same issue. Neither of them is correct. The world is not black and white. The world is shades of gray. And this is the issue, is how do you determine which things are lies and which things are not? Just because this is a giant conspiracy doesn't mean that the earth is flat. This is a good example. People say, well, hey, you think that we can teleport a plane through a wormhole, so why do you not think the earth is flat? Well, because everything in the whole world isn't a major conspiracy. You need evidence. You need science to support it, right? So there you go.
Which, if could be connected with you, would be in the area we wish the interaction to occur, to get you off into something else totally different from what you're doing. So the next thing you know, here, all it takes to set that up may be a phone call and stimulate the interaction to occur. And then the controllers sit back and watch the game go. It's gaming. But it's just like watching a movie scenario.
Just like watching a movie scenario. What does that remind you of? Does that remind you of the letter to Ashton Forbes? It's like gaming, he says. This is scary, man. This is scary. Because this is like actually evil shit. And I've had several people reach out to me. Of course, I'm not going to name any names or anything like that. But that, like, we have this kind of capability. You want to know what I've heard? I've heard that we actually have the capability where even if your computer is not connected to the internet, we can actually still hack it. We have that kind of capability. And it actually doesn't seem that unreasonable. If we have the capability to teleport energy, then it seems plausible that we could actually just straight up hack into a computer that's not even on the network. And this is interesting because if you think of the Stuxnet virus that we spread in Iran, where we took out their nuclear capabilities, you can imagine that maybe we didn't even have to put maybe we didn't even have to put a thumb drive into one of the computers. Maybe we were able to do it when it was completely air gapped. Scary stuff, man. These people have power that, you know, we would just think is not really possible from the public perspective. And that allows you to be stealthy, extremely stealthy. So you should just, like, if you are a target, you need to be on your guard all the time. It's just that simple. It needs to become to a situation where it's just second nature, where you're just on your guard.
One of these days, we'll probably write a book on gaming and how it's done and what kind of the main games they can use.
Also, sorry to keep pausing it, but God, I fucking love Tom Bearden, man. I love Tom Bearden. Right now, for me, Hal Puthoff and Tom Bearden are like, they're up there. I mean, Tom Bearden's the GOAT. He's the GOATest GOAT. Honestly, this guy is just a fucking GOAT. But Hal Puthoff honestly knows some shit. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I can just tell looking at Hal Puthoff's papers, this guy knows some shit. But dude, Tom Bearden, I wish I had met him, man. I wish so much I had met him, man.
But I can tell you they're very effective. You can get so many different games from so many different walks of life by so many charming folks who are really oily characters that you would not believe it. And those come at you en masse. And usually they bury you. They bury you off in the courts. They bury you off. They get you tricked into doing an illegal act. How would they do that if you wouldn't violate the law? Real simple.
Okay, now for this next part, and then we're going to switch over to some other investigative stuff after this. I want you to imagine Kim.com. Why am I extremely suspicious of Kim.com now? Kim.gov, whatever you want to call them, I don't really care. Because when somebody owns your money, they control you. And I knew already that the government could pull stuff off like what he's about to describe here. But once you start to think of it in terms of like that, like Kim.com is 100% over the barrel by the United States government. They tell him to bark, he's going to bark. They tell him to sit and roll over, Kim.com is going to roll over like a good dog.
How can you be made to violate the law when you're not a criminal? Simple. Let me give you a for instance. Fellow comes in and he says, you know, we really need to get some real major financing. Every inventor's poor. Everybody's struggling. Nobody's got the money to build all these buildups, which may cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a piece. So everybody's struggling for money. So he comes in and we're going to raise this. We're going to form a stock company. We're going to do all these good things. Unbeknownst to you, he goes off to the Securities Exchange Commission and several other people, Treasury Department, and he says, hey, I think I have fallen in with a den of thieves. Of course, he's the CEO now, understand? Of course, he's the guy who knows all this stuff. And tell you what I'll do. If you'll give me immunity to prosecution, I'll help you catch these crooks, because they're going to do the greatest money laundering thing you ever heard of. It's going to come right out of one of these foreign countries. It's going to be scrubbed and come in here to fund this effort. It's going to be laundered dope money or something like that. And you have no knowledge this is happening. And they jump at the chance. They'll give him the immunity to prosecution. That's their normal modus operandi. They want to catch some crooks, and this guy's going to help them catch some crooks. So then he goes off and sets all this up and keeps you deluded about what's happening. And you wind up in where the thing is going to be consummated somewhere, and if you consummate it, you wind up behind bars for about 20 years wondering how you got there when you never did anything to money launder anything. He's the fellow who did it and who set it up, and he testifies against you because he's immune to prosecution.
So, I mean, did you hear that play right there? I mean, that's a genius play. You get sucked in, say, hey, invest in this company that we're doing right here, right? This is the investment I want you to put your money in. Turns out that company is money laundering. The CEO of that company goes to the government and says, you give me immunity from prosecution and I will rat on everybody else. This is what actually the people did to Kim.com, which is ironic because he's a fucking rat too. And he ratted on other people as well. And this is like technically speculative, but there's articles out there you can go find out that some other file sharing companies actually accuse Kim.com of this, that like to save his own ass, he basically ratted out the other file sharing companies that were out there. And this is how the game's played. If you don't know how that's the game's played, there's hundreds of examples of that going down. So scary. This is just one example of how they can pull it off. And that's just one story they can write. They can do it any number of ways that they want, you know? I'd be careful about taking any drugs or anything like that as well. I mean, they can take you down any number of ways.
This is one of the standard games.
Okay.
Machiavelli is not dead. He still lives. And these are the games that are played. And it's particularly played in the systems where people are trying to build over Unity systems. It's been very...
So if you imagine in the MH370 situation, this guy, Kim.com, Kim.gov, comes out of nowhere. No connection to the UFO community at all. Sees my stuff. Calls me up out of nowhere. Do you know how many major influencers have called me up? Zero. Kim.com out of nowhere wants to talk to me. Calls me up, has a long conversation. I try to, I tell him about the evidence, blah, blah, blah. He wants to support me, what have you. Starts whispering in my ear of all the things that I can help achieve if, I listen to him and things like that. Doesn't share any of my content. Takes even my Sibbers video, and instead of like just retweeting me, takes the video and posts it as his own, which even Vicky Vilma thought that Kim.com posted that. Kim.com didn't find any of that shit out. I did. Takes that, and then all of a sudden, a 6-day-old Reddit account finds some cloud pictures on the internet. Kim.com's calling me up. You've got to say this is fake. Otherwise, it's going to damage your credibility. And if you say this is fake, then I'll give you a job helping investigate the legal case against me. This is a true story, by the way. And then you have to say, and that if you don't say this is fake, then it's going to damage your credibility super, super hard. And he's calling me up at 8 a.m. after this thing has just dropped. I've just woken up. And then after that, fast forward a few months, I initially make a statement because I was pressured into it. I back out of that statement. Fast forward a few months, and next thing you know, Kim.com is calling me a scammer, saying that I knew that the videos are fake and things like that. Is this normal behavior? Absolutely not. Heck, he was arguing with Dr. Greer in a space as well. It's completely nonsensical, literally yelling at one another like a little 5-year-old child. This is the types of games that the government plays. I wouldn't be surprised at all to find out that Kim.com was an asset that was told to get next to me, to use his clout to try to influence me, to try to make this whole case go away. Truthfully, that's exactly what I think happened. That's the only story that makes the most sense to me at this point. Otherwise, why was this guy even getting involved at all? So that's just something I want you to keep in mind. And I've learned a lesson from that as well. So I don't connect myself to any influencer, and I never will ever again. Now, I will let influencers, I don't care if influencers want to promote the content, but I'm not going to tie myself to any other influencers. And it helps if you've grown to be big enough where you don't need those influencers anymore to still get your message out. At the time, I probably had less than 20,000 followers. I remember when Kim.com started retweet, or he retweeted that Sibbers thing and linked me, I gained 25,000 followers in one day. So I do thank him for that. But the way they play these games is they bring you up to knock you down to play these games as well. Okay, let's see if there's any more here.
Effective in stopping some of them.
Do you think lethal force has been used?
Lethal force is used. I worked with an inventor.
Was that Stephen Greer? Did you hear that voice there?
Where people are trying to build over Unity systems. It's been very effective in stopping some of them.
Do you think lethal force has been used?
I think that's Stephen Greer. Do you hear it? Yeah, that's Stephen Greer in the background. Stephen Greer is interviewing Tom Bearden right here. It's crazy that I recognize him and literally just brought him up as well. And a lot of people ask me, what do you think about Stephen Greer? You need to talk to Stephen Greer. I'm not connecting myself to Stephen Greer either. Even though he was interviewing Tom Bearden, Stephen Greer has very good intuition. He figured out these guys know some shit. And he started interviewing them. And he got good information from that. The problem Stephen Greer did is he hit on 19. Stephen Greer had 19. All he had to do was stay. All he had to do was say, I've got the engineers. I've got the scientists. Here's the technology. Instead, he went, okay, now I got to figure out what all this means. It means that, aliens are weird, conscious spirits and shit like that. We can summon them out in the forest, and I'm going to start making money by bringing people out to the desert and summoning aliens or whatever. Using CE5, I'm going to come up with this whole terminology. I'm going to market it. I'm going to brand it. That was the death knell. He shouldn't have done all that. My approach is, yep, I found the scientists. I'm literally just watching Stephen Greer's shit right here. And now I'm going to figure out how the science works. If I have to become a physicist and an electrical engineer to do that, then that's what I'm going to do. Anybody else here who doubts me, you should not underestimate me. I don't care. I'll do whatever it takes to figure out the technology. Comes to aliens, neat, whatever. I don't really care. I don't care what the nature of the alien situation is. I don't care the nature of what the UFO situation is. I just want to know how the technology works. And I just want to be in Star Trek world. That's it.
I worked with an inventor, for example. The Sparky Suite is quite well known. And he was shot at once with a silenced rifle a sniper rifle from about 300 yards. The only thing that saved his life was he was an old guy and very feeble there towards that part of his life. And he was stumbling as he coming up the steps, and he fell down. He just flat fell down on the steps, caught his foot and fell right forward. And as his head went forward, the bullet went right by where his head was. And of course, the assassin was never found. So there are many cases like that. Some are killed. I believe Marinoff, I believe to be a kill. I don't believe Marinoff jumped off a building when he was excited on the way to talk about his invention and so forth. Gave no indications of it. If I can believe the reports of the people who visited where his body lay on the pavement glowed. And there's only one weapon on earth that will kill a human body and leave where it lies on the cement, let the cement glow under it. And that's a longitudinal wave shooter, what's called a shooter.
So this is the problem where Tom Bearden hurt himself as well. Because he started saying, okay, we've got this crazy technology. I know what the intelligence community is capable of. And now he starts throwing out a bunch of stuff out there which can't be proven. And now they use this to discredit him. This is what they've done to discredit Tom Bearden historically as well. They've used his claims about generating earthquakes, the Challenger, Chernobyl, some of his assassinations. Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's just speculating. But they use this against him. Simple as that. That's why I'm very careful. I could be talking about way more conspiracy-related stuff, but I don't. Because I know they are capable of it, but even if you speculate, you have to be very careful because they will just attack you for it. So the only stuff you see me speculating on is stuff like, the Iran helicopter president shoot down. Because let's just be honest. The Iran president's helicopter just crashes a few weeks after they shoot a bunch of missiles at Israel. Come on, man. Come on. What's the base IQ level for keeping up to speed? You don't need IQ. I don't even believe in IQ, guys. Teach yourself to be smart. The biggest thing is motivation. If you are motivated to learn, then you can learn. People always ask me, how do I catch up? How do I get caught up? Guys, in November, I didn't know anything about electrical engineering at all. I started at the basics. You can go back to my old streams in November. They're all on YouTube. And I just started reviewing the basics. Start with the basics. Repeat it. Keep digging into it until you understand the basics. And then step up. Move to the next thing. The beauty of knowing that this stuff is real is you've got a shortcut. That's what pushes me, is that I know what's out there and what's real. So I look for the things that are out there, scientific papers, the people that are talking about the stuff that I know is possible, like wormholes, warp drives, the people that are talking about engineering the vacuum, the Hal Puthoffs of the world. You'll quickly realize this is a smaller community than what you think. It's not infinite scientists that are out there. And you'll start to realize the ones that know the stuff. You start looking at their references. Who are the people they're referencing? And you hear the same types of concepts. Kaluza-Klein that I mentioned earlier, the unification theory of Kaluza-Klein, 1926. The Casimir effect, you see it all the time. You start seeing the patterns. And this isn't like the patterns of confirmation bias. Like these things are just literally explained in scientific peer-reviewed papers over and over and over and over and over again. So that's what I would say to you guys, is that it doesn't take any specific IQ to make this happen. Believe in yourself. I personally, my beliefs are that everybody is equal. Some people say, no, you're just super smart. That's how you're able to do this. End of the day, I think that everybody has the same potential. And if you tell somebody that they're smart or they can be smart, then they will be smart. Don't sell yourself short. Okay. Okay, and then last thing I'll say on this, and then we're going to jump in the next part, is there's a couple aspects to this. So there's a history aspect to it, for sure. I didn't know any of the history of physics or science before all this. I talked to Salvatore Paez. You could see that it was just going right over my head, most of what he said. Now I watch my interview with Salvatore Paez, and I'm like, holy shit, he was telling me all the right people. So what I did was, when I interviewed Salvatore Paez, I knew he was legit. I knew he was not lying to me. I wrote down every single name that he said. And I said, I need to research all these people. I actually still have the Word document with all the people and the scientific concepts that I need to look up. And I just started going down the list. On my early science streams, that's all we used to do, was go down the list of the things to learn. And this is where you start to learn the history of it as well. And you can start to read the papers. You start to see the evolution of it. This is why I'm so confident that, or not that confident, but I think that we figured out teleportation with respect to wormholes in the 2000s. Because when you start looking at the history of the papers and stuff, you can see there's this evolution of us advancing the science. So the history of the science is important for sure. And that's where now, I used to just only speculate that this started in the Manhattan Project. Now I'm almost sure this is when, like, we figured out that it's a legit thing. I don't know if maybe we knew about it before then, but like in terms of the US government taking it seriously, the Manhattan Project is when I think that happened. And you'll find the science, I think it pushes back to then. And even before, I mean, Tesla and Einstein, Kaluza-Klein, those are all in the early 1900s or 1920s as well. So it goes pretty damn far back. But then understanding electrical engineering is extremely important. And the reason why that's important is that polarizing the vacuum has to do with charges in the vacuum. And so you need to understand electrical engineering concepts, positive charges, minus charges, how a circuit works, etc. Fundamental concepts you need to be able to understand. And then with respect to the physics, wormholes are probably the biggest thing to try to wrap your brain around. And Einstein was not all wrong. In fact, I think Einstein was 99.9% right. Maybe some of the aspects were not right when it comes to quantum physics. But when it comes to geometry of the universe and his equations, I think he nailed it. Okay. Let's go to the next thing. Yeah, I don't really believe in a lot of the Antarctica stuff, guys, just for a heads up. I mean, there's definitely a secret at Antarctica, but I think the secret's a lot more mundane than what people think. I think that the secret is the detectors that we have there. Uh, I would say I'm 99% sure that we've got gravitational wave detectors that can detect if there are UFO crafts. We can detect them. Anything that produces a gravitational wave that, like the orbs in the MH370 videos, we have detectors that can detect them. And the reason why I know this is again is the scientific papers. The scientific papers on high frequency gravitational waves go back to the early 2000s and the late 1990s. And then if you look at the pattern, you see that Ning Li's research into gravity and shielding gravity and Paklanav's research is in the 90s. So we were looking into gravity research in the 90s. And then into 2000s, early 2000s, we're looking at high frequency gravitational waves. And then all of a sudden, wormhole papers start coming out. So you can start to see this pattern of the history of the science that's out there. What was I about to show? I just forgot. Oh, I was going to show the videos real quick. So let's dig into the videos here because we also have some, I don't know who posted in our Discord. I apologize. I don't have time to dig through it. But somebody found the debris analysis from MH370. And we're going to take a look at that because JK Philly fan did some good research into it. And he found some notable similarities in some of the debris. He said, I'm going to look through this and see if I see any patterns in the analysis. How come I don't have it here? Oh, probably in the MH370 thing. Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. So let's start with the videos once again. We haven't shown those yet today. I posted a video on this Sibber system. The pattern on this video is extremely important, I feel like. In terms of how the orbs move around. Yeah, the scientific papers are aware the disclosure is happening. The tracking system as well is important here. I was watching a video with Stan Deo, and it's really interesting because he mentions that they create some type of symmetry that allows them to basically stick together and form like a higher order shape. And it's not just 3 orbs. You can have like 7 orbs or whatever it is to like make even a bigger triangle than this as well. And this may be why people are seeing large black triangles. It may be that they're not material triangles. It's that they're seeing the orbs connect together like this. And possibly the most important part of this video is the first orb, where you see the first orb doesn't quite lock into the plane here. Now, Stan Deo mentions that these orbs can basically form some kind of resonance where this is what locks them in. Is if they're not too far or too close to one another, they get into a perfect location where they basically just get stuck together. And this could explain what we're seeing with the orbs here when they get stuck together. So this first orb is doing some kind of locking, and you can see it spinning around the side of the plane right there. And it only takes one rotation for it to find the resonance. And notice the second orb takes like 5 or 6 seconds to show up. But the second and third orbs come like right after one another, which is something that I don't think anybody other than me personally has noticed. So point this out. One thing I did a while back was I said, okay, the first orb at about 18 seconds gets in there. The second orb doesn't show up until about 25, 26 seconds. And the third orb shows up like 2 seconds later. So it's first orb, bump, 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 second orb, bump, third orb. That's an interesting fact because it goes to show that first orb locked in and now they're all locked in. And the weird thing too is the third orb locks in immediately. It like when it shows up, the first 2 orbs are already in alignment and the third orb shows up and just completes the triangle. To me, that's giving a lot of information away. We really are looking for the small details in these videos. Okay. The Schumann resonance could be important with respect to the resonance of the Earth. I think there's also ways to extract energy from the Earth itself because the Earth is a giant capacitor. But generally, you can extract energy straight from the vacuum as well. So yeah, so the reason why the orbs are moving the way they are is they're definitely doing some kind of mapping of the plane here. I think they're mapping the mass, but some people have said that they don't think they're necessarily mapping the mass of the plane. because you have to figure out the exact counter. You need to figure out exactly how big this wormhole needs to be to encompass the plane, how long the wormhole has to stay open. Now, we're talking fractions of a second, but it's still important. It needs to be open long enough that the whole plane goes through it. And I mean, look how fast that was. That was like 0.1, 0.2 seconds. That's how quickly this happens. But it's still really important you get the exact right measurements from the physics perspective in order for that plane to disappear. So that's definitely what they're doing, because you see the orbs reorient their orientation right here, and now they're vertical. So they were doing something important right there. Mapping the plane, figuring out the position, something related to that. Okay. Pretty cool. Now, the second video, one thing I want to point out here too, guys, related to this, since we're talking about it tonight, there's a part of me that struggles to believe that we are this advanced. Because just from an engineering perspective, what we're seeing in these videos is extremely difficult to understand, to comprehend how we could actually engineer, not the physics, the concepts in the physics. Sure, we've got papers out there that explain it all, but engineering the orb to do everything that it's doing here. We're seeing it's extracting energy from the ether, from the environment. It's cold fusion, most likely going on. The movements of the orbs right here are showing zero friction, zero inertia. So they're warp drive themselves. So we've already got cold fusion and warp drive. And then the combination of three of them creates a second order effect where they're able to literally just create a rip in the fabric of space-time. So you've got three engineering capabilities. Like if I make a gun and just shoot my gun, that's got one use, right? The gun is just for shooting something. These orbs are like free energy, warp drive, and wormhole all in one. Three different things. That's the part where I look at that and go, how the hell did we make that? And even like, I guess the logical argument you would say is, well, okay, whatever they're using for their warp drive is the same thing they're using to make the wormhole. Like that's a way to simplify it. And maybe the same thing they're using for the warp drive and to make the wormhole is the same thing they're using to create cold fusion. Now, when you put this in context of the science, in terms of the history of the science, I start to wonder, maybe this is not necessarily an experiment, but maybe this is one of the first times where we were able to safely record this event. We thought safely record this event. Unfortunately, the video leaked to the internet. I think that the reason why we look at this, if you read the papers by Eric Davis specifically, a lot of it seems like he's keeping it somewhat vague. Like we have to simplify certain parts of the equations. Well, you imagine Eric Davis would want to see this video because he's going to be able to go back to his scientific papers and he's going to be able to tell how accurate was the theoretical science to the experimental proof. That's why we're recording this. We're definitely recording this for intelligence purposes, to give this back to the engineers to say, yep, here's the wormhole we created. Now go ahead and figure out where, how the math works and why it looks the way that it does. It's not a uniform circle, for example, it's a Taylor set-off blast wave. And then the other question a lot of people ask around this is this a situation where the plane's going to get ripped apart? Now, from going through the wormhole, no. Wormholes are humanly traversable. They do not have an event horizon. I just read another scientific paper before this stream from Eric Davis talking about stabilizing wormholes. And black hole has an event horizon. This one does not. But it doesn't mean there's not stress on the airplane itself. So you can imagine if there's some stress on the airplane, maybe some parts may be ripped off here. It's possible. We can't rule it out entirely. In fact, one other thing I want to point out, I'm just going to switch to the other video real quick. This is actually a side note, but I just remembered this, is that this is a cooling event, super cold event we saw from the other video. So one thing people were able to notice was that right here, if you look very, very closely, to the left of the plane, just a little bit down below the wing of the plane, to this cloud that's to the left here, when the zap happens, a little hole opens up in the plane. I'm not going to be able to point it out, but there's a little hole that opens up right there. You can see this hole here in the same cloud that was to the left of the plane. If you look at my 4 orb sign and it goes straight to the left of my 4 orb sign to this cloud in the middle of the frame, you see a little hole there. This hole happened because a piece of ice flew through the hole. It wasn't a piece of the plane, it was a piece of ice that flew through the hole. Why? Because this is an extremely cold event. So what's happening is it's freezing the molecules in the air when it happens. And the ice, that's what we see shooting off here. We're seeing ice particles shoot out because of how cold this event is. So we can see there's like no hole there. And then once you see that zap happen, the hole becomes very prominent. So you can imagine a piece of ice flew through that cloud. The little hole in the cloud is extremely strong evidence that what we're seeing here is legit. Now let's take a look at the evidence for the debris. So we found this report of the debris. And thank you, whoever found this. I apologize. Don't know who did it to give you credit. But yes, to this question here that DeHaven asked, yes, I think that it's very, very likely that the negative energy event that allows the orbs to flow forward is being used to generate the field as well. And that somebody did some complex calculation, or maybe the orbs can do a complex calculation on the fly to figure out exactly how much negative energy, et cetera, is required to create that wormhole just large enough so that the plane will be fully encapsulated by it. Yeah. Because the physics is the same, this is one benefit where we may not need multiple different things to be able to pull it off. So, yeah, it becomes extremely cold. Now, why does it become extremely cold? Listen carefully. The secret to pulling a lot of this anti-gravity technology off, all of it, is understanding that there is 0 point energy everywhere. We have this energy level everywhere around us. Okay. Now, the secret to gravity is, I'm going to be very careful here. What I'm going to say is that to create a negative energy type event, we would take that energy level and we would reduce it. And if we're reducing it, we're extracting that energy from that location. If we extract that energy from that location, what would you expect to happen? You would expect it to cool down. If you extract heat from a location, what's going to happen? You're going to expect it to cool down. So the reason why we're seeing this absolute cold event is we're imagining that we are extracting the energy from a localized area, very localized area, using electromagnetic fields. I'm not going to go into too much more on that, but if you read some of the scientific papers that I've posted, like there's more to be kind of gleaned from that in terms of exactly how to engineer it. But that's the high level concept. So if it's freezing, then you can imagine all the area just around it on the outside, all the condensation in the air, in the atmosphere is going to freeze and create ice. And then the ice is going to go flying. Okay, this is the last statement I'm going to make on flat Earth, because flat Earth, no offense, is extremely stupid. I gave it a chance because I wondered if people would make a type of argument to claim that, like, it's not really flat, but that space-time itself is flat, like Einstein says, because with respect to making a wormhole, you need two flat aspects of space-time so that you can make a bridge between them. But no, that's not what flat earthers think. Flat earthers literally think that the earth is flat, which is frankly the dumbest thing out there. And all you need to debunk it is to know that we have 3 dimensions: up, down, left, right, and forward and back. This alone proves that the earth is not flat. There is no flat when it comes to space, when it comes to what we perceive in our reality. Nothing is flat. The same reason why an orange is not flat. Nothing is flat. I don't know why people want to believe that the earth is flat. It literally began as a meme, and there is no scientific evidence for it whatsoever. Not only is there no scientific evidence that the earth is flat, but it is easily proven that it is not flat. And in order for it to be flat, people have to think that every video ever taken from space is fake. They have to think that space itself is fake They have to think that satellites are fake, that we're running this massive ruse every time we shoot a rocket into the space with billions of dollars, wasting all this chemicals. They have to also not just literally go watch rockets go launch and come back down as well. So like it takes this massive level of straight up denial of observable reality in order to believe that the earth is flat. And at the end of the day, the main reason why I don't believe the earth is flat is because in order to produce a wormhole and all this stuff that we're talking about, you must have curvature. The whole basis for it is that everything is not flat. That's the basis for it, for Einstein's general relativity. So there we go. I don't want to have to deal with the flat earth stuff anymore, guys. Yeah, there's nothing to debate because like when you're denying observable reality, I can't debate you. If you just ignore what you can literally just go see with your eyes, this is like, why don't you debate people that think that the double slit experiment is fake? Because it's literally a repeatable, proven experiment that anyone can produce. And people would know quantum mechanics is fake. Well, I don't debate those people either. Because if you're just going to deny that everything that proves you wrong is fake, then you're just a fucking idiot. And sure, everybody's allowed to be an idiot on this planet if they want, but I'm not going to waste my time with it. There's nothing to debate. The earth isn't flat. You're lying to yourself, and it's like a sad situation where, like, remember when I said the spectrum? Like, you're on the side of the spectrum over here where you think that everything is fake, that everything you get told is fake. And this is just like no different than being a debunker, thinking that everything that you get told is real. It's two sides of the exact same coin. The truth is never like this. The truth is in the middle. Okay, here we go. Done with that. Hey, money easy. Okay, guys. Now, with respect to this report is from 2000. That's not the date of the report. I don't remember the exact date. Oh, February 2017. So debris washes ashore in Africa in 2015. Between 2015 and 2016. So this is the debris examination report. Okay, we're not going to go through every piece, but I'm going to scroll through it just so you guys can see how this report kind of played out. They found these pieces all washed ashore in Africa. Every single piece that's out there washed ashore in Africa. I'm going to show you guys a graphic of the locations on the map. Now, this should have been massive red flag. The fact that no debris has ever been found in Australia should tell people something is wrong. If the plane crashed in the location where they have been arguing this crash, where we found nothing, then we would have found a ton of debris in Western Australia. And yet, zero debris gets found there. And a year later, debris washes ashore on the wrong continent in Africa. Now, I think the debris is legit. The reason why I think the debris is legit will become self-evident because the most logical place for this debris to get into the water to end up in Africa is not the South Indian Ocean. It's actually like the Western Indian Ocean or Diego Garcia military base. Those locations, when you look at the currents, are a perfect match for the debris drift into Africa in all the locations that it was found. In fact, I think that the Diego Garcia argument is the only argument for how this can be debris from MH370. Everybody else needs this debris to be fake. They need it to come from another plane. They need it to be planted. Guys, the debris was not planted. There's too many small pieces of debris on different parts. Like some of it's on Reunion Island, some of it's in Madagascar, some of it's in South Africa. Somebody didn't go flying around all of Africa, dropping different pieces of debris all over the ground. Blaine Gibson is not some secret agent either. You can just tell from listening to him on the Netflix documentary. So we need a logical answer. The logical answer is the debris went into the ocean in a different location. Okay. So let's look at some of this. I'm gonna go through this very quickly in terms of how they figured out like where it is. So they're basically saying, okay, well, this is what it would match to on a Boeing 777. And then they kind of show you on the plane exactly where they think this would show up, which goes to show like this is debris from a Boeing 777. A lot of these pieces, even without serial numbers. You can see the honeycomb pattern right here is consistent with a Boeing aircraft right there on that. Again, you can see the honeycomb pattern here as well. Makes me wonder if some of this brown stuff is not damage from a fire as well, especially some of this black stuff as well. They show you kind of where they think some of these parts are from. A lot of the stuff they think is just likely to come from the plane. Not a lot of this had, like, you can see the size of these pieces of debris here. They're too small. There's no serial numbers on most of this stuff as well. Oh, this one does have a serial number, some kind of serial or part number here as well. So they can kind of figure out where some of this stuff comes from. But keep in mind, these are tiny, tiny pieces of the plane. Like, this is not significant. The biggest piece was the flaperon, which is about 8 feet long. Each wing is 100 feet long. So even the flaperon, just relative to the overall plane, relatively small. Here's some more pieces. I don't think I saw the Rolls-Royce engine cowling anywhere on this list as well. There's a big RR on one of these pieces, and for some reason that's not listed here. So I just want to show you kind of what we're dealing with here. So here you can tell right away, like, this is a panel on the aircraft. Like, this matches the panel on the aircraft. So when you look at it from the image perspective, to me, it's pretty clear. This comes from a Boeing 777. A lot of these pieces, even the pieces that don't have serial numbers or what have you on them, they're coming from a Boeing 777. Like, just visually, you can tell that they match. Like this one right here, this obviously is like from one of the pieces from the computer screen or the TV screens that they had in these planes right there. You see this? I don't think we're going to have ice damage on these. I think you're going to have heat damage on some of them. Now, not all of them are going to have heat because the fire wasn't just burning throughout the entire plane. The fire was generally localized. So the parts that I would want to know about fire damage would be the ones that are going to be near the cargo bay. If any of these pieces were near the cargo bay, especially on the inside, that's where I would expect to see the fire damage. Unfortunately, pieces that were burnt probably either didn't show up, didn't wash ashore, or were not recognizable, unfortunately. So here's another piece of the honeycomb pattern that you can see. Here's another piece. Now, this piece is pretty interesting because it looks like it got pulled apart. Like, if you pull something apart, like, that's what this piece looks like. And that's going to be important because I'm going to show you the analysis that JK Philly fan did here as well. This right here looks like this could be fire damage, but it also could just be like rust. But I don't know if, because if this is not metal, then like what we're looking at here looks like fire damage. To me, this was not an expert, but I've seen a lot of fire. That right there looks like fire damage. Not as much as some of the other pieces. For some reason, the pieces that clearly show fire damage don't show up on this report, and I'm not sure why. I have a couple screenshots of pieces of the plane that were found. Maybe they were found after this. I don't really know. Or maybe they just didn't get included. Some more. This is from Madagascar. Here's where you can see where this piece comes from. So I mean, this analysis wise, this seems pretty legit. Okay. We're almost done. This piece is a big red piece on it, which has, you can even see the red stripe here. Oh yeah, so this one clearly comes from the wing, from the fin of the plane right here. I mean, look at that. Wow. So if these got to Africa, what happened? A lot of people ask me, Ashton, what happened to this plane? Where did it go? Well, I think the debris tells the story. The debris says this plane showed up somewhere west or somewhere in the Maldives or west of it so that this debris could get to Africa. We need a plausible way for this debris to wash ashore in Africa. And the plausible way is that this debris did not enter into the ocean in the South Indian Ocean. It's not possible from a debris drift analysis perspective. So let's, okay, I'm just going to skip through the rest of this. This one also looks like it could have fire damage on it. Okay, so let's go to the images. So here is the debris drift. This is a drift analysis, just not even related to debris, just a drift analysis of the currents. So when you look at this right away, and this should pretty much end any debate about where the debris entered the ocean. The blue area here is around the area where they believe the plane crashed based on satellite pings. The currents flow to the east in that location. Only when you get further north do they begin to flow to the west. So the red area says 18 to 24 months. This debris was found just over 1 year. So keep in mind the debris was found a year later. This means that it was already in the location. So at the most, the debris could only have drifted for 1 year. And that is the green area here. The green area, guys. And yet the debris is showing up in South Africa, all on the east coast of Africa, Madagascar, and the Reunion Islands. And some of this debris is like a little tiny panel. So this thing is not like beelining it over to Africa. This shows the debris all should have washed ashore in Western Australia. All the debris should have washed ashore in Western Australia if the location was correct. So the location is not correct. That's the only logical conclusion we could come to. Now, the reason why people ignore this, even though it's literally undeniable, you're just staring at it on your screen right now. Like, you talk to any expert and they're just going to lie. They're just going to deny reality, even though they're staring at it right here. The reason why they've ignored this is because every expert out there, not everyone, but let's say 90% of the people out there, including all the YouTube videos, even people like Jeff Wise, all the independent group, they believe that the satellite pings are undeniable. They don't believe satellite pings could be fake. They don't think they can be wrong. They don't think they can be manipulated. They think that 10 rows on an Excel spreadsheet is inarguable evidence. I don't know how to say this, but they're fucking idiots. 10 rows on an Excel spreadsheet is about the easiest thing in the world to fake. Easiest thing. I could fake it in just give me a day or two, and I could fake some from rows on an Excel spreadsheet. Literally infinitely easier than faking 2 videos. And everybody thinks that faking 2 videos is easy. 2 videos in perfect synchronization requires a 3D render with real clouds. I think is simple. But 10 rows on an Excel spreadsheet, not possible to fake. You talk to the independent group, they will tell you this. This is why they won't accept objective reality. Now, this is where cognitive dissonance kicks in, because if you think that the satellite pings must be real, then you look at what we're looking at on your screen right here and you go, no, the satellite pings are real. This must be fake. What? And then, to make matters worse, we've got an overlay of where the debris was found. Well, chat, this should end any discussion about the search area. So why am I 100% confident that the Ocean Infinity search in November is going to fail again? Because as long as you're searching down here in this area, you are never going to find that plane. There's a 0% chance this plane crashed. Even if you don't believe orbs teleported the plane, you have to realize there's a 0.0% chance that this plane is somewhere down here in this, anywhere near this search area. Look at where the debris is. Look where this debris is. Look at this piece of debris in South Africa, and this one up here up in Tanzania. Guys, the debris didn't magically drift 3,000 miles in a year. Not possible. Just literally not possible. The piece that is the flaperon piece, that's the closest one. That's the closest piece. Even that's in question whether or not it could get there. All the rest of it's just literally 100% undeniably impossible, not possible to have drifted over here. They ignore all of this. Even the people that think the plane, that this is really debris from Malaysia Studio. You have people go, they found debris. And you go, yeah, do you know where the debris was found? It rules out a crash in the South Indian Ocean. They never mention that because they can't keep these two ideas in their head. They just want to think debris was found. I'm not going to say where. And the plane crashed in the South Indian Ocean. They're mutually exclusive. Either you believe the debris or you believe the plane crashed in the South Indian Ocean. Okay, so we've addressed that. There you go. And, this is what's scary is that a lot of people are so brainwashed that they will just accept two mutually exclusive ideas from the same source and just never reconcile them in their heads. Never reconcile it in their heads. So, JK Philly fan. So here's the thing. So where's a better spot? Look at where Diego Garcia is. I put Diego Garcia on this map right here in the middle. Look at Diego Garcia. This is where Diego Garcia is, guys. So where do I think the plane went? So this is the last radar contact over here in the top right here. So this plane flies for another 20, 30 minutes. It gets teleported somewhere where my mouse cursor is over here in the top right. Well, where's it getting teleported? It doesn't take a big leap of logic. It's getting teleported somewhere over here to the west. Somewhere over here to the west. That's also consistent with the right-hand rule in electrical engineering as well. This plane went backwards. Plane was going to the east, teleported backwards, It's going somewhere over here to the west. Islanders see the plane over here as well. 20 Islanders see the plane in this area. That should be absolute proof that the plane ended up over here. The story that I'm telling is going to end up being true. The reason why it's going to end up being true is it's the only story that fits with the evidence. It's the only story that fits with the evidence. So plane teleports over here somewhere through a wormhole, whatever the fuck happens, I don't know. Ends up at Diego Garcia. Now look at the ocean currents relative to Diego Garcia. Way more plausible that the debris got thrown in the water at Diego Garcia. That explains Reunion Islands, Tanzania, all these locations. Much, much better. Especially given the fact that we have 1 year for this debris to drift. So there's your answer for it right there. To the person who asked in the chat, they probably recorded it on the other side too, because they probably knew where it was going to show up. So this is another aspect to it where it's like, there's probably more videos. Now, somebody mentioned like, if they were smart, they destroyed those other videos. They destroyed all the evidence. Because like people are going to go to prison for a long time if this comes out. Not because there will be accountability, but because it's a major conspiracy to hide this technology. And because they've been lying about it, and because they lied and had the media lie for them as well, the people that thought the plane went into the South Indian Ocean that were lied to by the Inmarsat pings, those people are going to be pissed off that they've been deceived so easily. And they were so stupid that they believed something that is just so obviously false. Right? That's the reason why they can't tell the truth about this. That's why hopefully they deleted those videos and deleted it showing up on the other side. Okay. So now that we've done that, so then the question is, okay, if it ended up in Diego Garcia somewhere over here, right, where we've got it, then how did it get there? To me, there's only two possibilities. It either crashed somewhere over here, further to the west, or they disassembled it in Diego Garcia. I personally think it makes more sense that they disassembled it in Diego Garcia. But you could also argue that either some pieces fell off the plane because of the event that happened, or that the plane crashed somewhere else. The problem with the plane crashing somewhere else is that we would have found a giant debris field. We're not going to find just like 8 pieces of the plane. This plane, if it crashed, it broke into like 1,000 pieces. There should have been hundreds of pieces of the plane washing ashore in Africa. Not just like, here's a dozen pieces that we found. No, it should have been bodies, should have been luggage, should have been all tons of pieces. So instead, it kind of feels like when you look at the debris that they ripped this plane apart and they just like threw some of it into the water. That's what it feels like. It's hard to prove, hard to be 100% certain about a lot of this. It gets very speculative at this point. We don't have a lot of hard evidence. So let's look at what JK Philly fan, let's look at his analysis. So JK Philly fan went through each of the reports and looked for commonalities. And what did he find on a lot of those pieces of the debris? Structure examination. The fractured fibers on the item indicate the fibers were pulled out, which could indicate tension failure on its structure. Tension failure? Tension failure would indicate someone ripped it apart. Tension failure doesn't really, in my opinion, indicate a crash. If my plane crashes into the ocean, if I take this glass and shatter it on the ground, it's not going to be ripped apart. It's going to shatter into a million pieces. Now, if you do that to a piece of debris, I wouldn't expect it to look like it got pulled apart. I would expect it to look like it cracked in half. Now, it's hard to be 100% sure about this because I imagine that the two scenarios would look pretty similar to one another, but let's look at some others. Another one. The part was fractured on all sides except for one edge. So you would expect it to be fractured if the plane crashed. So in this case, on all sides except for one edge, it was fractured. Some fasteners were still intact. The fibers appear to be pulled and not kinked. Kinked would be like this, like snapped back and forth. Pulled apart would be like one person yanked on one side, one person yanked on the other and yanked it off. Let's look at the next piece. This part was fractured on all sides. Visual examination of the fractured lines indicate that the fibers appear to have been pulled away with no sign of kink on the fibers. Yet another one. So now we've got 3 pieces. And there was like, what, 20 pieces that we reviewed right there in that document? And we're looking at about 5 pieces right here. Let's look at the next one. The part was fractured on 3 edges except one end, and the edge where the hinges were installed. They were fractured on all sides except for the edges where the hinges were installed. Close visual examination of the fractured line shows fibers were pulled and there was no sign of kink once again. So where it was fractured is not kinked. You imagine a huge explosion. You're going to imagine the pieces are just going to break apart and go flying. Instead, it looks like there was some stress that was applied to the plane. Either they were pulled apart or, remember, we have this event where we're watching a plane get sucked into a wormhole. You can imagine if there's some tension on the plane, you can imagine pieces getting ripped apart. Hey, we got JK. We got the man himself in here. Credit to JK Philly fan for doing this review. He's awesome. I love JK Philly fan. Okay. The last one, structural examination. The part was fractured on all sides. The fibers appear to be pulled rather than being compressed. Again, if you're going to have a situation where the plane's crashing, you could imagine that certain parts of it could get compressed together, ripped apart. Instead, it looks like at least 5 of the 20 or so pieces were pulled apart. So you could imagine, yeah, and here's another thing too, is that one thing that was interesting too is that one of those pieces was a piece of the tail from the plane. Now, why is the piece from the tail of the plane interesting? Because we have a video here where you can see the plane getting sucked backwards into the wormhole. You can see it getting sucked backward. And you can see the reflection or the inversion or whatever you want to call it, the shadow of the tail of the plane sticking out of the wormhole right here. So this could indicate there was some stress on the tail of the plane. So I think that there are 2 possibilities. I'll play it again. One is that the event itself caused some stress on the plane related to the pieces that fell off the plane. The fire could have also caused pieces to come off the plane. Maybe it was a combination of the 2 factors. And maybe the pieces that we found were due to the stress of this event happening of the wormhole. And the stress of the event of the wormhole is what caused those pieces of the plane to come off. The other option is that this plane landed at Diego Garcia and they ripped it apart, literally ripped it apart. And because there was some structural damage to the plane, pieces of the plane were just coming right off. So imagine like dry skin or paint on the wall that's starting to come off, and you rip off some pieces of it that are coming off. You're going to have these flakes coming off. Same idea with the structural integrity of the plane. Some of the plane is damaged. You just rip off a giant piece. Well, what are we going to do with that? Throw it in the water. Now, to me, it'd be kind of weird to just throw evidence into the water. But unless you want people to find the evidence so that people will go, oh, yeah, we found some evidence. but you would expect them to throw the whole plane in the water or way more pieces. So you have to weigh the options. Did the debris just fall into the water in a different location, or did they throw the debris in the water? So did the plane not make it through? I don't know. That's a good question. I think that the plane did make it through, but the fact that you can see this like mirrored reflection or this inversion of the plane, whatever you want to call it here, of the tail, definitely gives me pause. In fact, you can see part of the wing here as well. So now I'm wondering, they found a flapper on, which was part of the wing. What if what we're seeing here is part of the reason why some of these pieces were found? Maybe the whole plane didn't cleanly get through the wormhole. And this caused like a stress where the parts of the plane that immediately went through had a different level of stress than the parts that took like even a fraction of a second longer to get through the plane. Maybe this is why they found a flapper on. Interesting. The fire suppression bottle is curious. Those are located in the forward of the starboard wing. Interesting. It had to be empty as well, though. So maybe that's how the debris got out there. We might have just realized something else. Maybe there's more to this. Maybe this reflection that we see here, maybe can I pull up a different video version of this? Maybe this is indicative of the stress on the plane that we see here. I'm going to try to pause it at the right frame. This one right here. All right. Okay. Maybe the fact that we see part of this wing sticking out and part of the tail sticking out here is because there's going to be then a different pressure differential on those parts of the plane relative to the rest of it. Maybe that's why parts of those pieces of the plane were found. Interesting thought, guys. This is why I like doing these streams with you guys. X Dead Snide. I always thought it was really strange that the passenger phones were still ringing after the plane went missing. Yeah, I mean, that is weird. And it's crazy that CNN had some fake expert go on there and just try to lie to the world and tell them, oh, yeah, planes will still ring. Planes will totally still ring after they're turned off or in the ocean or whatever. And the whole world just goes, yeah, that makes sense. Totally. What the hell? Like, that should be a major indicator that something is not quite right. The phones are still ringing? Interesting. Okay, let's see if we've got any other evidence that we should take a look at. I need these orbs to teleport my wife away. Guys, did you guys see the Kamala Harris? I hate talking about the politics stuff, but Kamala Harris talks about we got to be woker than woke, or woke. It's important to be woke. Guys, I saw that clip of Kamala Harris talking about being woke, and I just thought, please, God, just let the orbs orb me away, man. Just let the orbs fucking orb me away. I'm so sick of the goddamn bullshit in this world, man. I really am. I wouldn't even if they orb me away, I'm fine with it. I'm cool with it. Yeah, this is the part that's tough. Like, if pieces were falling off the plane, you have to reconcile this with the fact that the islanders saw the plane still in the air, still flying hours later. So was the plane teleported to the future? Did the plane land? This is the part where like it's hard to figure out what the full true story is here at this point. But I think, we look at the islanders who saw the plane just north of Diego Garcia. It's a high degree of credibility. They have no reason to lie. And like 20 of them saw it. It's not like one person made up a story. Like 20 people on the island saw the plane. And they saw it flying low. So what questions do you guys have while I look to see if there's any other evidence? Hey, Yogini, nice to see you as well. Ashton, don't go to the light. Yeah, I've mentioned this a lot, but I think that many of the passengers probably succumb to the smoke. One thing that we've learned over the last few months is that lithium-ion battery smoke is extremely toxic. Extremely, way more than even I thought. I thought like, oh, well, if you like don't have a gas mask on, like, eventually after like 30 or 40 minutes, you'll succumb to the smoke. No, it turns out after talking to Billy Vincent, who's a former security director at the FAA, just one or two inhalations and you're done. Like, there was a situation with UPS Flight 6 where the captain went to go get the oxygen tank or oxygen mask, and he didn't even make it. He just like, and it only would have been, the oxygen tank was like right behind him. He just went to go get the oxygen tank behind him and passed out immediately. So like, this is a situation where like this lithium ion battery smoke, you don't want even like, if you see a lithium ion battery fire, do not go running towards it. Do not go try to go put it out. Just get the fuck out of there. Like, if you are watching this stream right now, if you see a lithium ion battery fire and you think, oh, I'm going to go put that out, it's just some smoke, whatever, don't eat one inhalation and you're out. That's all it takes. So I think that most of the crew, the passengers were probably incapacitated because the time frame between the plane going dark and the time frame of when this happens is like an hour and 20 minutes. It's way too long. Even if the smoke was slowly filling up the air, it's not looking good, man. That's why I think that can help explain why all the people didn't show up. Like, why did the people not show up somewhere? Why did a person not show up and be like, hey, I'm Philip Wood. I was on that plane and I'm still alive 10 years later? Because they're probably all didn't make it. None of them probably made it. Like, only if any of them made it, only a small number of them did. And if you're one of the few survivors, you're never going to talk. Never. Because you're going to be afraid you're going to get disappeared. So the questions that remain are probably the stuff we've been talking about tonight. Like, I think everything up until the zap is pretty well understood. The only difference is, what was it, an accidental fire or was it an intentional fire? And at some point, it doesn't even really matter. You know, only the U.S. government can tell us some of that. The part that's always been questionable in my mind is like, what happened after the zap? It went somewhere to the Maldives. We have a really good idea of that because we have these islanders who see the plane. Sergio Calduvo went out there, Culaduvo, whatever his name is, interviewed them. They seem highly credible. I've watched the videos. So this plane was in the Maldives. We have a fire suppression device. We have physical evidence too. The big question there is what was the story of the plane landed at Diego Garcia? Did it get remote controlled to Diego Garcia? What did they do with the people? Did they keep them prisoner? You know, what happened? There's people that have been held prisoner on Diego Garcia for like 2 or 3 years right now because their boat washed ashore in Diego Garcia. So it's actually not even unreasonable that they would keep people prisoner for like a long time. But that's the part where we just don't really know. I do think that people can survive the zap. That's actually not the issue. Physics-wise, it seems very possible. The issue is more of like, did they survive even before getting to the zap? Yeah, and don't touch the sides. Now, this is interesting. This is what I'm talking about with respect to the plane. So maybe the people didn't touch the sides. What if the edge of the plane or the tail of the plane or the wing of the plane touched the side? And so you have one piece of the plane that's going over here and the other piece of the plane is still stuck right here. That's the stress. Maybe that's why those pieces of the plane fell off, because that caused some ripple stress. Like if you imagine, like, you know, pulling on a stretch ball or whatever. Hey, Ocean says, I'm taking a plane tomorrow. Pray for me. We will. I think you'll be fine. Yeah, I think that I didn't even watch the Julian Dory thing. Like, normally I watch everything about what MH370 stuff, but I think Julian Dory is just straight up Jersey Shore trash. And Jeff Wise is a fucking idiot. Jeff Wise is like mainstream media, CNN brain, patient zero. Guy retweets Joy Reid from MSNBC, who's like the biggest race baiter on the planet. So Jeff Wise is the definition of somebody who thinks that conspiracies are not possible. Like he's way over here on the conspiracies are not possible. Government never lies to you. Everything that's out there. And this is the reason why he was never able to solve it, because he actually had good evidence, like the evidence for the debris not making any sense. Like he sees that, but he just can't come to the logical conclusion that he was lied to on the Inmarsat pings. He thinks that the Inmarsat pings can't be fake. It's like, it's not that hard, man. Anybody who wants to solve the case, the first thing you have to realize, Inmarsat pings were faked. That's all it took to send people on wild goose chase. The moment you throw those pings out, the story makes way more sense. Plane ended up either at Diego Garcia or near Diego Garcia. So I didn't even waste my time, because the problem is, like, Jeff Wise is so full of shit that it's like he's got a few things that are relevant, but everything else he says is just completely useless. My guess is that Julian Dory is probably bored by him as well, because even though Julian Dory and I don't see eye to eye, we don't even like each other, he even admitted that something was weird about this plane. Something weird had to have happened. Because the argument that we presented, the case that we presented, is just too overwhelming. And he admitted in a space that the Edward C. Lynn thing was at least good investigative work. So I'm sure he was bored out of his mind by the Jeff Wise bullshit, frankly. I have seen 3-body problem. I think it's very interesting. And thank you for that donation earlier. So I will mention the 3-body problem. If humans have any superpower, it's our ability to reverse engineer stuff. So spoiler alert, guys, spoiler alert. Pause the video for the next 30 seconds or 1 minute. Skip ahead if you don't want spoilers for 3-body problem. Here we go. Okay, in the 3-body problem, the aliens are afraid of us, even though they have Star Trek technology and we don't. And the reason is because they know in the time it takes them to get to from Alpha Centauri to the Earth, 400 years. In that 400-year window, because we've seen their technology, we will be able to reverse engineer it and advance beyond them. So that by the time they get to Earth, we will already be more advanced than they are currently. This is what they're afraid of. This is, to me, the major theme of the show. Because look, I'm one guy with a Twitter account that works in electronic medical records, and all my followers out here, we've figured out how to reverse engineer this technology to a degree where physicists that work in quantum physics don't even understand it as well as we do right now. That's how powerful just 1 or 2 videos is of a real event. Is that we've surpassed most PhD quantum physicists on this planet right now in terms of understanding of quantum mechanics. Because we're looking at the answer sheet. This is why the government doesn't show any anomalous videos. They don't show any surveillance capabilities, because even one video will allow you to figure out way more. I didn't even think we would be able to reverse engineer. I thought like China and Russia could reverse engineer this. The fact that we reverse engineer tells you that they definitely figured it out. No doubt. Or they're just incompetent, frankly. Okay. Tell me about your chart. I talk about, this is not a chart. You mean this one back here? This is my Magic card set. So I used to play Magic cards back in 2019. 2019 is when I learned how to play Magic cards. I was an old adopter. I love card games. I used to draft every Wednesday at my comic book store in San Diego. I learned how to play Magic cards. I got really good. I started playing Arena online. I got really, really good. And then I ended up buying Magic cards, and they didn't send me a thing that I bought. So instead, they sent me as like an apology. They sent me this uncut War of the Spark foil sheet, which is really cool looking. So that's what that is. You don't know. I do mention it a lot. No, the smoke is not coming from the engines. We can say pretty conclusively it's not coming from the engines. You have to look closer. People think that the smoke is coming from the engines because that's where you would expect it, because you see 2 lines. But when you look at the thermal video more accurately, you can tell pretty clearly that the smoke is not coming from the engines. And the ways that we can say this, and this is another one of the things where the debunkers, like, the debunker people are so dishonest, they can't give you anything. Like, one thing you'll notice is that it's kind of like when I argue with my brother. I argue with my brother, and anything that I say, he automatically says the opposite of it. It doesn't matter what it is. He automatically disagrees no matter what. Even if it's a great point, he will automatically disagree. This is how the debunkers operate as well. This is why they can't admit that this is smoke coming out of the back of the plane here. They won't admit that. It's undeniable that right here we're seeing the heat signature in the belly of the plane. Like, it's completely undeniable, but they will still just deny it. Like right here it is. This is coming from the belly of the plane. And when it gets a little bit closer here, you can tell that the heat signature here is too far up. It's not lined up with the engine. If this smoke was coming, or the smoke here coming out of the back of the plane. So if you look to the right in the back of the plane here, you can see that the smoke is kind of lifted up a little bit from where you would expect. If this was coming from the engine, we'd be able to see it clearly. This heat signature that matches the heat signature of this engine is coming from the belly of the plane. So once you see the AC exhaust ports and you notice there's 2 AC exhaust ports next to the landing gear, you can tell this must be coming out of the hull of the plane, wrapping around the hull of the plane. So it gives the appearance as though it's 2 lines, because it is 2 lines, but it's not actually coming from the engines. If these engines were smoking, they would be a lot more cloudy here as well. We would be able to tell if this engine was on fire or smoking, the heat signature wouldn't be so uniform around the engine. We would see a lot more heat coming from the sides of the engine as well. So this is one of the things where it's not even really controversial. It's clear that this is smoke, and it's clear this smoke is coming from the belly. The debunkers can't admit this because if they do, then they start to see that there's a story here that's being told, and this makes these videos a lot harder for them to be fake because they tell a true story about the plane that the world is basically ignored. But if you go back, you find Billy Vincent talking about the fire event. You find Dr. Edel, who's another expert, talking about he thought it must be a fire event related to lithium-ion batteries. And that story had to be memory hold because that's what really happened to the plane. And what you think somebody faked these videos with quantum mechanics understanding better than most PhDs that also told a story of the plane that hasn't really been represented anywhere. Who was this mythical person? So now we have a VFX expert that is also a PhD in quantum mechanics, better than most PhDs, that knows about magnetic monopoles, because we're seeing this heat signature right here. They know about magnetic monopoles that weren't even published yet. And, oh, by the way, as well, they liked the fire scenario, and they wanted to tell us that there was a fire scenario on board this plane, even though none of the media basically ran with the fire event and the fire scenario at all. So they took the most obscure story, and that's the story they wanted to tell us. All of these things. And, oh, they decided to fake 2 military videos, too, that could put them in prison, probably, for fraud. But no, yeah, so all of these things, that's all it takes for these videos to be fake. This is why when you tell people, what's your story for who faked these videos and why, they just immediately shut down. That's all you ever have to do is shut down any argument. And you have to press them on it. You have to say, what's your story? Like, I think it was JK Philly fan. He was in a debate with one of the debunkers. And the debunker literally said, no, I don't have to tell you a story. I don't have to know who the hoaxer is to know the videos are fake. Yes, you do. That was the end of the debate. The JK Philly fan won the debate when he said, you tell me what you think the story is related to the plane. He said, I don't need to argue any of the evidence for how the videos are real. I don't need to tell you who the person was who faked them. I know the videos are fake without even telling you who faked them. It's not possible. That shows the dishonesty. Any honest person would say, unless I know exactly who faked these videos, I can't say with 100% certain that the videos are fake. If somebody was honest trying to debunk the videos, they would say, I'm like 90 or 99% sure the videos are fake because I found these assets and I believe it's really easy for them to do this, blah, blah, blah. That's how somebody who's honest would talk. Instead, they always lie. They always say the fake videos, blah, blah, blah. And I know that they were fake, even though I don't know I can't answer any of your questions and I can't explain why anyone would have done any of this or who the person might be. All falls apart right away. This is why none of the debunkers, the prominent people or whatever, like the Mick West of the world would ever debate me, because I would just literally destroy him and destroy his credibility at the same time. Because I would just answer question after question, and he'd just keep saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. His list of questions for me would end after like 5 minutes. He would have like 2 questions, and I would answer them. And there's nothing he could ask me that I wouldn't be able to answer. For him, I'd have 100 questions, and they would all be unanswerable to him. And this is why, none of these people, even these investigators, whatever, they also won't. They're all afraid to talk to me. They're all afraid to debate me because they'll get absolutely destroyed and embarrassed. That's just the truth of it. I'm not trying to be cocky. That's just what will happen. I will embarrass them. I will dress them down, and I will show that the emperor has no clothes. And they know that from a propaganda perspective, that it's a matter of perception to people as well. So this is why if they were to debate me and get embarrassed, people will wake up, and they can't allow that to happen. So anyway. Okay, I think we're going to probably stop here in a few minutes. But yes, the fake passports, the Iranian passengers. I mean, if the government's out there, the best story they could tell is they can make some bullshit up about the Iranian fake passengers, because it's really weird. There was 2 fake passengers on board this plane with stolen passports. Like, I don't know how that gets ignored. The things that stick out to me more than anything are 2 passengers on stolen passports that know one another. They know each other as well, that are going to Asia, going to China to get to Amsterdam. Doesn't make any sense. Makes no sense at all. They change their appearance, physical appearance, to look like the passport. That and the Freescale semiconductors are the things that stick out like a sore thumb. And the lithium-ion batteries on board the plane. These things, if you're a criminal investigator, these are the things that stick out right away. This is why security director Billy Vincent was all over it, even before knowing the batteries were on board the plane. So, okay, yeah, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to give you guys an invite to the Discord if you're interested and you want to join our Discord, join the family. We have some discussions in there. All I ask is you just don't troll. As long as you don't troll, I don't care. We've got a bunch of debunkers that sit around there and they try to paste everything out of context. I don't even care. They're allowed in there as well. It doesn't matter to me. Oh, Mangel, thank you very much for the donation. Appreciate you. Mangel's donated a number of times. I appreciate your donations. Thank you very much. I don't think there was 3 orbs. I only think you need 1 orb on the other side. The 3 orbs on the one side are important because you're creating a triangle around the plane. You're creating a 2-dimensional shape in a 3-dimensional environment. On the other side, you don't need a triangle. On the other side, you just need 1 orb because all you need is a steering wheel. So you only need 1 orb over here, in my opinion. Although, again, I can't say with certainty. This is the reason why you record something like this, because, like, we're dealing with physics that this is probably this is the first ever endothermic event in the public view. This is the first one ever. There's never been any video, and not even in sci-fi, I don't think. I can't even think of a sci-fi movie that had an endothermic event that looks anything like this. So this is the first endothermic event, wormhole, whatever, in the public view ever. So we need more data to really have a good idea, but it's pretty interesting. Okay. You're so arrogant, Ashton. You're so arrogant. We might have to re-listen to that stream sometime. Although I don't like to put people down or whatever. Yeah, I haven't talked about the debunkers in a long time either. I just don't care. They don't matter anymore. We've moved so far beyond them in general with respect to the science and the technology where they just don't matter, honestly. These videos, if they were fake, I wouldn't be teaching quantum mechanics to people based on them at this point. Yeah, you reverse engineer 2 videos into understanding over unity and teleportation. This is the part where I think it's probably caught people off guard. It's one thing to say, hey, I found some videos, I think they're real, etc. It's another thing to say, you know what, I'm just going to reverse engineer them myself. And I'm not just going to reverse engineer myself, but I'm going to stream it and show people the whole process and the evolution of how we got to the point of reverse engineering them. So that's what I'm making it as hard as possible for the people that are trying to hide this stuff. The reason why one of the videos is white, one is not, because they're 2 completely different assets. If it was 2 drone videos and one drone was white and one was black, then I would say, well, they must have changed the temperatures or whatever, right? Because you can invert the colors as well, as what we found out. So it's very possible that from the satellite video, we're looking at an inverted temperature, or it could just be possible that it's just completely false color and that the colors don't necessarily represent anything related to temperature at all. So that's what you have to keep in mind as well, especially because it's filmed at nighttime. And if the satellite video is really a render recreation, like of the whole planet Earth, then it is really actually a computer program. It's just a very advanced computer program using real data to generate it. So that's your answer for why it's white in one of them. But the thermal is the one that really shows like true thermal color, where we can tell that the event is actually a cold event because we can compare it to the engine, which is red hot. So I never played Yu-Gi-Oh! I never played Pokemon cards or anything like that, just for the record, for the people that are out there. I am a nerd, but not that much of a nerd, guys. And I think that I do wonder sometimes for like what it would take for people like Rogan and what have you to invite me back on. I think it will take the science in the public sphere to catch up. I probably still would go on Rogan, but I'm going to be honest, man. I'm going to probably rake some of these people over the coals that like thought the videos were fake in the future when it turns out that they're actually real. And people are going to say, "Oh, you're a poor sport, Ashton. Like, why are you, be a bigger man." Honestly, people were dickheads to me, man. People were fucking assholes to me. So when it turns out this shit is real, yeah, you're going to get it back. I guarantee you. And some of these podcasters that thought it was fake or whatever. Oh, I know you were told it was fake and you didn't want to have me on because you were afraid it might be fake or whatever. Yeah, don't worry. And any of the podcasters that were assholes to me, yeah, I'm going to rip you to shreds. I'm going to rip you to shreds. I'm going to ruin your career. So, you know, I'm a good person, but not that good of a person. So we'll see. End of the day, at this point, like I just don't even feel like they don't even deserve to have me on their shows, truthfully. Hey, Mike, how's it going, brother? Oh, I already did the invite. Hold on. Didn't I already do the invite? I forgot to hit the plus on the invite. Yeah, MH17 is also weird, but there's at this point no reason to connect the two. It's way too convoluted to try to connect them as well. A lot of people do. This is just another incident where people are hitting on 19. We've got enough evidence out there. We don't need MH370 to somehow be MH17 as well. One of the things that Billy Vincent said very clearly too is that this plane did not land somewhere on a commercial airport. This plane did not land in a commercial. You cannot hide a Boeing 777 landing in a commercial airport. Not possible. I mean, we have air traffic controllers everywhere. If you think that MH370 somehow landed in Amsterdam with a bunch of dead bodies on it and sat there for months and months and months, and then flew to Ukraine and got shut down, sorry guys, didn't happen. Yeah, it's possible that the extra cargo was another person. This is something that's been speculated out there as well, is that there was this added cargo that was like 89 kilograms, which is what, like 200 pounds or something like that. There could be a stowaway on board. This has been speculated that I've seen as well, which you just don't really need that, though. You just have the fake passenger instead, but that's also possible. It's too hard to know. Like when it comes down to it, like we know a lot, but there's certain little small elements and variables that we're not sure about. Mangel, thank you again for the donation. Why aren't there videos on the other side? There probably are. There probably are videos on the other side. Why did they not leak the other videos on the other side? Who knows? Maybe they actually had videos on the other side, or maybe they didn't have access to those videos, or maybe we didn't record it. We can't know. We cannot know. You know, to me, if you're the leaker, one video should have been enough. Just the satellite video should have been enough, because people should have gone, oh, those coordinates were not known until 8 days after the video was leaked. There's coordinates on the bottom right, which indicate with NROL 22, indicating it's a satellite. That should have been 100% proof. Like we shouldn't have needed more than that, but humanity is like full of retards, unfortunately. So that wasn't enough. Then they leaked a second video. They're like, okay, well, here's another video. Here's a drone now. Now it's not a satellite, but now it's a drone looking from a completely different angle. Completely different angle. They're both perfectly in sync. To me, the leaker was like, okay, I've got another video. Here you go. Now, like, this is 100%, 1000%, no faking this, blah, blah, blah. Still ignored it. Heck, maybe there was another. Now, I think the last thing I'll say as well is that, oh boy, what's happening? Oh, shit. Oh, man, there's going to be some drama, apparently. Is that it's possible that Edward C. Lin didn't directly leak these videos. The reason why I think that, if you look into his case, he seems legitimately confused by why he was being charged. He was being questioned, and he didn't know why he was being questioned. To me, the story that makes the most sense is that Edward C. Lin gave these videos to someone else, and they leaked them to the public. So Edward C. Lin was sharing information with people. Like everybody admits, like when you look at his case, he was sharing information. He had loose lips. He was talking to people, blah, blah, blah. He also was theoretically an informant or a spy, is probably the better way to put it, for the NCIS, because of his Taiwanese heritage. So I think that he leaked these videos to somebody else. They put them on the internet because they were freaked out, because they were like, what the fuck? And then it gets back to Edward C. Lin, and they find out Edward C. Lin's the source, and they put him in prison. So if that's the case too, then maybe these are the only two videos that he put out there that he gave to the other person. Maybe the other videos are out there. So thank you again, Mangel. Appreciate it. Let's see. What does AJ question have? How come you haven't been shut down? So a lot of people ask this question. Combination of factors. And again, this is my speculation. I haven't been told this exactly. I try to be as honest as I can with some of this stuff. What are they going to do? Are they going to kill me? If they kill me, what happens? So again, think of it in perspective of Tom Bearden. Rarely do they kill people. Instead, they make this elaborate scenario where they indirectly will do something to you. They take your psychological profile and they find your weakness. That's what they do. So a lot of people have this like mustache twirling villain perspective of, oh, they're going to silence you. If they deleted my content, if they killed me, like this, they're going to have a Streisand effect. That's the last thing that they would do. If I was in their perspective, I would not kill me. I would try to discredit me. I would try to do the Kim.com thing. I would send an influencer after me and then have them bring you up and then chop you down. The other thing I would do is I would plant information on the internet for the debunkers to find to debunk the videos. And that's exactly what happened. The VFX comparison was planted on the internet in January 25th, 2023 by Wave Rider 3000. Wave Rider 3000 updated the visual graphic that shows all the graphics that are in the asset. And they inserted the drones app into it. And then when we caught them, within 24 hours, they removed it. This proves that Wave Rider 3000 had malintent when they uploaded that comparison onto the internet. That comparison, the VFX comparison that the Lore Lodge, that Mick West, that the Corridor crew all used was planted on the internet to debunk the videos. And it was planted on the internet 8 months before the videos got popular. Now that's damning evidence. Now that's something that the intelligence communities would do because again, they're not directly doing it. They're putting something on the internet and then they say, go find this, go look for this. Or they just push someone to it. Now it turns out who found that VFX comparison? A one-day-old Reddit account. Same with the clouds, with the Kim.com saga. They say, so what do they do then? So then what I would do is I would take the satellite imagery and if I was smart, I would plant this up way ahead of time. You don't want to plant it as the case is getting popular. You want it to be out there on the internet, ready to be found. So that if things go awry, these videos ever gain popularity, you don't want to have to delete the videos. You just want them to be discredited in the eye of the public. So you take your satellite imagery and you inject it. You inject it where? You don't want to just make some pictures randomly appear. Instead, what you do is you find a set of pictures that are already out there that look similar to the pictures from your satellite imagery, and you inject them in there. 5 pictures in the middle. Inject them into an existing set, especially an existing set that's already available online. And you make sure, then you say, oh, well, nobody's ever going to find those pictures. That's the problem. You've put them somewhere on the internet. The problem is they're buried out there on the internet. So what do? You have a 6-day-old Reddit account. Brand new Reddit account goes, oh, I was just looking on this random website in 20 minutes. I happen to find these pictures. And oh, look, these pictures match the video. Right? That's what you do if you're the intelligence community. That is modus operandi of how the intelligence community operates. That's what you do to make it. So that's the reason why I haven't disappeared. The other reason is probably because I've pushed them against the wall, but this is why I'm careful because you never want to corner a wounded or a scared animal. You never want to corner them. If you corner them, then they're going to lash out at you. So the other aspects that I look at this is that I'm being protected from the people by the people that want some of this information to come out. And the people that don't want it, probably the PMCs, the private military contractors who have everything to lose, are probably the ones that are like, we need to make this guy disappear. The other aspect of it is some people probably look at this and go, holy shit, this Ashton guy like figured out this situation where like nobody was ever going to figure this out. But this guy figured it out. This is like, I have skills that could be useful to people. So maybe they plan to, at some point, reach out to me. What I would say is somebody should reach out to me that wants these skills to be used in a positive way. Because, I want to use them in a positive way that are out there. So, phone's always there available if anyone wants to call. So there you go. That's the answer to that question. So again, you have to think of it in terms of it's not as simple as, hey, why don't they just disappear you? Well, you answer that question. Why don't they just disappear people? It's pretty self-explanatory. I have 150,000 followers. They're all conspiracy theorists. That the moment I disappear, everything that I've ever posted is going to get pushed through a fine-tooth comb, and everyone's going to go, they made this guy disappear because he was exposing the fact that they literally teleported a plane and they're hiding advanced technology. So anyway, good question on that, guys. Sorry, I got a little bit far behind here. Yeah, again, guys. So, and here's the thing too, is that, and I think we're probably going to shut it down after this, but even if we blast these videos everywhere, it's not going to be enough. So what I realized when I talked about at the beginning of the stream today as well, is that people are too brainwashed. Too many people on this planet are literally NPCs. Like, I actually wonder, I sit here and wonder, is everybody on this planet even conscious? Or are some people just going through the motions? When an NPC sees these videos, they just immediately think it has to be fake, because if it's real, that means their whole reality is a lie. And when you're faced with the prospect that your reality is a lie, you will believe anything other than the fact that your reality is a lie. So the issue here is so much more complicated than that. And this is the reason why I don't even really want to expose this anymore. I just keep doing it because I love you guys, and you guys have been with me this whole time. I would be just as happy to not do any more streams and just read scientific papers until I can engineer it myself. I would be just as happy doing that. So the issue is a lot more complex, which is why I reevaluated, like, how do I even go about exposing this? It's a lot harder than I thought. And I sit and I think, well, this is why there's an elite and everybody else. Because the elite people are woke up. They've woken up. They know what's true and what's possible. You're either somebody who understands what's possible, and you have a huge advantage over all the other bots that are out there. And if you're one of the people who is watching this stream right now and you're woken up, you should be taking advantage of the gap and disparity, because you have insider information. And you should be thinking about, what are the ways where I can take advantage of this information, where I can increase my status, I can profit, etc., off of knowing this stuff's real. You should be doing that. Okay, guys. I think that's probably it. Just going to look through, see if there's any other messages. I'm like probably about 100 messages behind. I think that the videos are technically infrared, but it's not as simple as that. This is not, it's not infrared camera that you can buy commercially. Like, these are the most expensive high-tech cameras on the entire planet. They use multi-spectral capabilities. The bigger question to me is, do they use the video? Do they use this capability to see like UFOs and stuff that we wouldn't otherwise be able to detect normally? No, I'm not sure. It wouldn't surprise me, because it's weird that we like have been filming in infrared and not an optical spectrum, in my opinion. Why did Regicide wait? The most logical answer for why Regicide waited to upload the videos is because they thought they were fake. Now, keep in mind, 4 days after this plane disappeared, people thought that the plane crashed in the South China Sea, completely different part of the world. It wasn't until weeks and weeks later that we start to see this narrative. Oh, no, the plane turned back and went over here. And wait, the plane was in the Nicobar Islands? Oh, wait, we have videos with coordinates in them? So this is where you could imagine a situation where Regicide got these videos, but he's somebody who's believing the TV, saying, well, no, the TV's telling me this plane crashed in the South China Sea, but I've got this video of a satellite video saying this plane is disappearing in the Nicobar Islands based on the coordinates in the bottom left down here. So it may have not been until that point where Regicide and I was like, oh shit, I'm looking at the real deal right here. Real deal. So good question on that. Yeah, so one thing I want to point out, guys, is that everybody is susceptible to misinformation. And this whole thing about the decomposed bodies is a huge piece of misinformation. And what ends up happening is people spread it, and then other people adopt it, and then they believe that it's real as well. The source of this decomposed bodies is just like some Russian soldier. Like, some Russian soldier claims that there was decomposed bodies, but that's it. There's no physical evidence whatsoever. And then it spreads like wildfire. And then everybody says, oh, I heard that there's some decomposed bodies, blah, blah, blah. There's no actual evidence of decomposed bodies. Like, that's the thing about the MH370 stuff. And even if there was, you should be asking yourself, how would any of that work? They flew a plane to Amsterdam full of decomposed bodies. How does that make sense? You think a plane took off and was sitting in the airport full of decomposed bodies and no one paid any attention to it? Like, you got to just use logical, critical thinking to examine evidence and determine, is it credible or not? The stuff about the decomposed bodies and MH17 or whatever is no credibility whatsoever. No credibility. There's no official reports that mention that. It's literally just some guy said that one time. So anyway. Could it be annihilation? Can't rule out annihilation, but there's too much going on. Like the way the orbs are moving around the plane. And you don't need this big endothermic event for an annihilation event. The endothermic event is consistent with what we'd imagine a wormhole to look like. So to me, my opinion, but I can't rule it out. I'm like 99% sure it's a teleportation. And then again, if it's an annihilation event, why are people seeing the plane in the Maldives? Why is there debris washing up in Africa? So there you go. Somebody sent a good meme on the Scarlett Johansson as well. It says like Scarlett Johansson looking confused in terms of why I told her to give me her signature on a marriage certificate. Pretty funny. Whoever sent me that is good. Yeah, Regicide Anon was the one. Okay, I think that's about it, guys. Hey, investigator, chat and share. I got your text messages, by the way. So, well, I don't know what the drama was, but I'm curious to learn more about it, guys. So, love you guys, chat and Sherry. Somebody posted their phone number in the chat. I'm not going to call that. Okay. Oh, what? We got another donation. The Golden Boy 2014. I don't recognize you. I just got off work. Please explain the Philip Wood picture. There's not too much to explain. This Philip Wood picture shows up on 4chan roughly 8 or 9 days, 10 days, something like that after the plane disappeared. And it's just a black picture. Says, hey, I'm being held prisoner. My name's Philip Wood. I feel like I've been drugged. He says something about military as well in it. He didn't know where he was. People, the first few replies basically say like, hey, this guy was on board MH370. And then they look at the EXIF data on the picture, on the black picture, and they find out that the coordinates are Diego Garcia military base. Now, this is funny because the debunkers have been arguing that there's these pictures that are of Japan. And they claim, oh, well, the EXIF data shows that these pictures are from Japan. And these pictures match the clouds that you have in this MH370 video. Therefore, the videos must be fake. So, and that nobody could manipulate the EXIF data on these pictures or manipulate the pictures themselves or any of that. They say that the pictures have been confirmed to be real, which is not true. They actually lied about that. They lied about that they did some type of confirmation analysis and forensic analysis on the video on the pictures was also fake. But if EXIF data cannot be manipulated, then the Philip Wood picture that Golden Boy is talking about right here proves that this plane ended up at Diego Garcia, or at least the passengers did. And the last thing I'll say on this is that the person that debunked this picture back in 2014 is Mick West, the #1 debunker on the planet. The same guy who's tried to argue that he's debunked the MH370 videos on the Metabunk website. I have absolute proof. And the worst part is he lied. He objectively lied when he debunked the picture, claiming that it was not consistent with an iPhone 5. And somebody came in, and I found proof that somebody did real forensic analysis, and you can see the pictures they compare to, the metadata they show. It is consistent with an iPhone 5 using Picasso application to take the picture. And so basically every single every claim that Mick West made that is an objective claim, not an opinion, was false. So Mick West is 100% a liar. It's been proven that he's a liar. It's been proven that he has no issue lying about stuff that he doesn't want to be real. And his website should be shut down. And in my opinion, he should be thrown in prison for the rest of his life. If these videos are real, that's exactly what I'm going to be advocating for, because he's literally the worst human being on the face of the planet. So there you go, guys. Hope you guys appreciate that. Yeah, and I feel bad for people like Mick West and his followers who are like severely mentally ill and brainwashed, and they think that the world is this like magical place where the government never does anything wrong, and they never lie, and they never do any sketchy stuff, and there's nothing mysterious that we don't know, that we've got it all figured out or whatever. Like, that's such a shitty way to go through life. Like, I just feel bad for those type of people, and we need less Mick West in the world, because he brainwashes people into this weird cult that he has. of people that think they're smarter than they are and that everybody else is an idiot. That we've already figured everything out. And if you don't believe what the mainstream narratives tell you, then, you're some kind of lesser conspiracy theorist type person. Anyway. Okay. I've already addressed, I think, most of the questions that people are asking at this point. Is Ashton dance? Okay. I think we're good on that. And I don't like to crap on him that much as well, because I don't want to be that person myself. But he set himself up for that. Nobody made him continually lie about the videos. Nobody made him write an article in Skeptical Inquirer about it. Nobody made him falsely debunk the Philip Wood picture. Those are the things that he consciously made these decisions, and he deserves to be held accountable for those. Simple, Okay, guys, we're going to drop off. You guys have a good night. Let's do, what are we going to play us out with tonight? I think we're going to play us out with, should we play us out with S Beers? I think that's what everybody wants to hear tonight. I might be able to dance. Let me see if we can dance. I think I have it. Hold on.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Spears, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. Enrolled in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching